Hello and welcome to the Zwift Racing League. It's time for the finale of Season 3 as we get ready for Race 8, heading to Surrey Hills and Zwift's London World. This one is going to be an absolute monster with 44 kilometers of racing for the men and the women, nearly 1,000 feet of climbing. It's going to be majestic, no doubt about it. We'll find out who the real gladiators of Zwift are. But before we go there, let me bring you up to speed with my colleagues here for Week 8 as we'll be missing Matt Stevens again as he's at the Giro d'Italia, doing a fantastic job as they head into their final week. But it's great to have, as always, our cornerstone of the ZRL. Good to have you back, legend. It's Hannah Walker.
Thanks very much, Dave. Pleasure to be back with you and Rasan, and I'm so excited for this finale. It's going to go out with a bang.
Yeah, it really is. And Rasan, it's great to have you back as well. I know everyone has been loving Rasan's replays, and we'll have you along for the coverage of the men's race today. But let me introduce to you multi-time U.S. national champion. Rasan, I always feel like I'm doing a call-up when I'm around you at a big-time bike race. Well, it is a big-time bike race, but this time you're on my team. Great to have you back, Rasan Bahati.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Hannah. Thanks for having me. Totally missed you guys last week, but looking forward to seeing the fireworks today on the finale of the series.
I think fireworks is exactly the correct term. There's no doubt that we'll be seeing that today. Well, last week we had our final team time trial. We were out on Magnificent 8. So this was the third team time trial that our squads faced in their seventh race of season 3. Let's take a look at how things went for the women out there. Welcome to the Zwift Racing League, race 7.
This is Wildtopia's Magnificent 8. 29 kilometers, only 156 meters of elevation. Ensured powered by pedal power with 4 riders.
Slowly start. That's a 140 fastest time there. Acrosti. She's taking huge pulls. Cryo RDT.
They go fastest at the intermediate checkpoint. Under the rock arch, 17 seconds faster than Cryo RDT, so Movistar E-Team onto a stormer tonight.
New fast time, 21:15. So Hino, the queens of esport, back on top. Beast mode about to make the catch here.
And Beast Mode powered by Rose, they stop the clock and they go into the fastest position so far.
Here comes Cryo RDT. They are coming in hot. The last 3 teams have beaten the fastest time. There it is. We've got a new fast time from Movistar. Swedish Zwifters very, very close to Movistar, but in a league of their own, Hino Racing delivers yet another win. There's no doubt that season 3 has been the most competitive of our first 3 seasons of racing here in the ZRL. And let's go back and take a look at how things stand right now with our series points. This is a team points-based league, and we get a feel for how strong Hino is once again. They've been dominant for the first 3 seasons and barely missing a step along the way. You can see that they're sitting on 111 total points right now. Team Swedish Zwifter deserve a tremendous amount of credit for stepping up. They've become real challengers here. It's going to be interesting to see as they get one last crack at it out there today in Surrey Hills. Very impressive debut from Movistar E-Team here. This World Tour team jumped into season 3 for the first time and more than respectable. They're sitting in third, but look how it stacks up right behind them. This is going to be a battle for the ages out here today as Canyon Esports at 94. That's good for fourth. Cryo RDT, they're sitting in fifth, but that's a tie with 2024 there. We'll talk about the tie-breaking procedures as it very likely could come down to that. 92 points is where they're deadlocked here. 7th right now is Aeonian Race Team, but they're only 1 point back. And then you can see the powerful squad of A Race Like a Girl sitting in 8th, and they're still in contention for a podium spot, to say the least. You then see Saris, the Pros Closet. They could very well be our outlier team today, and it'll be awfully fun to watch what they've got in store. Beast Mode, the German team, presented by Rose in 10th, but this league goes a lot deeper than 10 teams. Let's see how we're doing. In 11th right now is Insured, presented by Pedal Power with 62 points. You know, you never know, but on a good day, they could climb way up the table. ATP Racing Venom in 12th. TFC sitting in 13th right now. Vision E Racing in 14th. Turbo in 15th. And then KISS Racing Team sitting in 16th. So that's how things stand after 7 races here in season 3. But today is a whole different kettle of fish. That is for sure. So, Hannah, let's go ahead and take a look at the course we're going to be racing on today. I think most folks are saying we've never seen anything quite like this. Take us around the 44K, Hannah, please.
Well, this is going to be a very difficult finale for the teams and the riders. We're into Surrey Hills, 44 kilometres of racing and just less than 1,000 metres of elevation. And as you can see from the course map there's hardly any time for recovery. Only on the descents, there's a minimal amount of flat on here. We pass some iconic locations and iconic climbs as well. We have Fox Hill, Leith Hill, Keith Hill, and where you can all score points, and Box Hill, where it featured in the Olympic Games back in 2012. And the points will be awarded to the first 10 across the line in the Queen of the Mountains. And at each arch, the riders will be able to gain a new power-up, as they have been the last few weeks. And this is the course profile. You can see there, Dave, there really is no time for these riders to recover. So it's going to be a full gas from the start into Fox Hill, Leith Hill, Keith Hill, and then finishing on Fox Hill once again.
We're expecting to separate the wheat from the chaff, Hannah, almost immediately out there. Let's take a look at the teams that we've got contesting. I have a feeling we're going to have some breakthrough rides out there, as well as some of the usual suspects that'll obviously be making that final group. But let's take a look, Hannah, at your top 3 teams to watch today. I'd love to hear who you're looking for.
Well, we can't look past Hino in the red jersey, can we? I mean, they've been so dominant in the first 3 seasons of the ZRL. It's been mightily impressive. It's incredible the way they've been able to dominate. And this season's been a little bit closer, but for this team and the magnitude of the riders, they have won, as I said, season 1, season 2, and 3, and they all come from different nations, as you can see by their flags next to their names. So for those 5 riders, to come together and be so cohesive and perform week in, week out, it really is incredible. And Lars Husballer at the helm, the team manager, does a wonderful job with Hino Racing Team. My next team, Dave, is Team 2024. Now, they're ever consistent week in, week out, and they have a wonderful squad, 5 riders, all from the USA, headed up by Nicola Cranmer, and they're only 4 points from the podium. So tonight, they're going to lay everything down on the table. They're going to go out and try and jump up to that podium placing. They're actually tied on points with Cryo RDT, so it really is... the fight really is going to be on, and they've been wonderful in the team time trials. They really excelled, but I think tonight, with the likes of Kristen Kulczynski and Shayna Paulus, they're going to want to do something special tonight. And my final team is Movistar E-Team. Now, they were a new squad into this season 3, and the way they've performed has been incredible. The way they've been able to get themselves together. They've had that confidence. Of course, they won 2 weeks ago on the Champs-Élysées, and week in, week out, they've gained confidence, and they've gelled so well together with Juan Pablo Molinero at the helm as their sports director. And again, these 5 riders all come together from different nations, different backgrounds, and it'll be wonderful to see. They're going to go out with a bang. They're currently sitting 3rd overall.
Well, thank you, Hannah. I just heard another bang, and that was the starter's pistol there in London. We are underway as the women are out on course. We are locked and loaded, folks. This is not a drill, and I think it's appropriate to say now, Hannah, it's on like Donkey Kong, because these women are going to have quite a journey ahead of them today. Let's talk about it, Hannah. I just want to jump right in with the play-by-play here, because I'm thinking that we see a significant split on the first trip up the climb. There are a lot of points on offer, and I think just for the end game out here, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I think that aggressive, that's the name of the game out here on what will be the toughest day of racing that we've ever seen in the ZRL.
It certainly will, and riders, they have the pressure to perform here, and I think just to allude to what Rasan said at the top of the show, it's going to be fireworks. These riders are going to lay everything down. We can see we're on board with Eustace from TFC, the rider in the centre of the bunch, in the centre of the peloton with the yellow jersey. It's on, and these riders in the final of the series, they want to do something special.
Yeah, I want to give a special shout out. There are some riders that go through, Hannah, tremendous to get to the race moment. You have to look at the life that they're living. And I would say Dominic Eustace here, the Canadian rider, works in healthcare. The last year has been absolutely bananas for anybody in that field. And for her to be able to make the time, and there are some real challenges that our racers face. I mean, when you look at it, much more than just the dual recording. But if we ask for transparency from all of these riders, Hannah, there's a lot that they have to do. And there's a stress that goes with that. So just really, I mean, TFC is a great example of a team that shows up with a great attitude. They're always ready to stick it to them out here. I hope they have a great race today, no doubt about it. We've seen some outstanding individual rides, and you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork on a day like today. But there's a really good example of a hero, to be honest, Hannah, racing with us here.
You're totally right, Dave. It's absolutely magnificent what these riders are able to do, combining their work life, their normal life, their private life, and then be able to perform to such a high standard in this Premier Division of the ZRL. It's absolutely fantastic. And as you say, many juggling either parenthood as well as their jobs, and some riders different time zones as well, which we must pick up on, because both you and I on different time zones. These riders might be racing with teammates who are some are racing in the morning, some are racing in the evening, and the way they're able to perform and come together, it really is incredible, and it's a privilege to be on this season and this CRL.
Well said, Hannah. Yeah, absolutely. When you look at what the racing in the ZRL takes, I mean, it's incredibly aggressive out here, and to be able to be prepared and give it a good go. And here we go. This is what we're talking about. You can see the splits are happening at the back of the group. It's going to be brutal out here. Let's be honest. There is no rest for the wicked, as they say. And so remembering now, a lot of things to think about here. It's a long day. We've got 44 kilometers of racing, 986 meters of climbing. Hannah, I did Alp to Zwift this weekend. I'm trying to stack some kilometers up, and that is not the way to do it. That was stacking up meters, because I think I went up about 1,000 meters in about 7 kilometers, right? So that's the amount of climbing that they're basically doing out here today. It comes at you in 5 just body blows, as we're in with one of the beast mode riders here, Cindy Friebel. This all German team has really impressed. I know that Hannah, the takeaway in season 3 is that the teams that were promoted up from the community from season 2 have done what's the word for more than respectable? I guess it's outstanding. I think that's what I would use, because it's been tremendous to watch them.
Well and truly outstanding, and it's just been incredible to watch them. We've seen, and we already spoke about at the top of the show, how Movistar E-Team have performed as a new roster of riders, of 5 riders who've come together. The way they're performing, you can just see Beth McKeever, the rider in blue, with the famous blue jersey on of Movistar, and it really is incredible, as you say, with Beast Mode powered by Rose, headed up by Sebastian Wolf, that these riders, they've come from the community division, and they really have stamped their authority on the race.
Courtney Nelson, Hannah, in the yellow and green, is absolutely a rider to watch. She's been lighting up Strava all over the west coast of the United States, so keep an eye on her. Look at how the cream is already rising to the top. This is absolutely incredible. This is a who's who of our league right now. Alice Lethbridge, a previous winner on Hino, without a doubt one of the classiest bike racers on planet Earth today. You mentioned Beth McKeever. Beth has also been a multi-time winner out here, one of the most talented young riders in ZRL. Courtney Nelson, I just mentioned. Catherine Curie, the winningest woman racer in ZRL history, racing out of Northern California. There's Kristen Kolchinski, who comes in with massive ambition. No one is hungrier for a win than Long Island's Kolchinski here on 2024. Louise, back. Moving up. Let's quickly talk about power-ups, Hannah. That's going to come into play today. No doubt about it. It's the big 3 that we've got: draft, arrow, and feather. It's hard to imagine a world where the feather won't be imperative for the finale. But let's talk about them, Hannah. Which one would you like to have right now in your quiver?
Well, like you say, the feather for a course like this where the climbs come in such quick succession is going to be incredibly important. But I think actually for this course, and as I mentioned before on the course preview, there's so many opportunities to get a power up that actually, as long as you get something that's in your favour, of course you'd always like to get the featherweight. Of course, makes you lighter for 15 seconds, and it reduces your weight by 10%. So incredibly important when you have just less than 1,000 meters of elevation. But as I said, with so many opportunities, I think in total we have 5 opportunities to gain a power up here on tonight's course.
You know, the dovetailing into that, Hannah, we have so many points available as it's a different scale that we're using today. 15 points for the first rider over the QOM, or the Queen of the Mountain, at Fox. You covered this in our course recon, Hannah, but I think it's worth looking at again as we are on Fox right now. I mean, today, if you want to break it down in your notes, it's Fox, Leith, Box, Keith, and Fox. So it's an interesting mix of climbs that we have here. Fox is not the most severe, but with this being the opening, you have to think the riders would have really put extra attention into their warm-up today. Hannah, I mean, I can't imagine you'd want to start this one with a cold engine.
100%. It was going to be vital for riders to come into this with a well-oiled engine and warmed up, definitely, because as we saw, there's not many riders left in this front group. Just look how split the race is. So if you come into this with cold legs, cold lungs, having not done a thorough warm-up, you're going to suffer from the beginning, and you're never going to quite get into the race. You're never going to be on. You're never going to be able to react to the moves on these climbs. And it's Nelson again who's putting down that power. So you can see the riders who have certainly come into this well prepared and also well hydrated. And another point that is incredibly important for these riders.
Couldn't agree more, Hannah. Hannah, Courtney Nelson is going to have a magical day here today. Talking about the gladiators of Zwift, I don't know a rider who's been doing more work in real life. She's been climbing, really, I was talking about that. See, this is the heat map for our draft here. There's no one in her draft. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing when you're racing on the front, right? When you are clean, a clean rear wheel. So expect magic today from Courtney Nelson. I'm already getting goosebumps, Hannah. This is going to be maybe the most exciting 40 minutes of racing that we've got ahead of us here, as it's 44K today. That's relatively long, even if it wasn't such a climber's course. But when you added in the fact that you're going to spend 2/3 of this race climbing, the descents are going to be steep and brutal. Courtney Nelson has lit a fuse. Now, this bomb is blowing up right behind her, Hannah, and I have a strong feeling that it's going to be 15, 20 riders by the time we make it to the bottom of Leith Hill. It's coming up quickly, 100 meters to our QOM. Get your pens and pencils out. We're scoring now. Heino all over the front. Courtney Nelson has done damage. Hannah, I'm going to throw it to you to start evaluating, taking inventory. Who's here?
Yeah, well, just look at that leaderboard straight away. Nelson just picked at the post there. Louise Huback taking maximum points of 15 for Heino. Her teammate Alice Lethbridge picking up the 12. So they've secured some wonderful points there in the first Queen of the Mountain. Nelson there with the 10. Makiva for Movistar with 8. Miller with 6. Kulczynski of 2024 with the 5. Larson with the 4. Daniela Estrate with the 3. Cecile Lejeune with the 2. And Cecilia Hansen again just picking up another solitary point for Heino. So that is the standings. Let's take a look at those overall team points after the first Queen of the Mountain. Well, look at that. 28 points for Heino Racing Team. Saracen the Pros Closet with the 10. Movistar with the 8. And it's going to be a hard one to come back from, because just look how the gap's already opening up. 2.4 seconds to Catherine Curie. So she's one of the riders who's missed this small group of 9 riders going off the front. So it's going to take a bit of a big effort for her to get back into contention, Dave.
I'll be honest, and I will admit, Hannah, that I get out in front of my skis sometimes, but I think this is the selection, to tell you the truth. The amount of horsepower and the mix here, you're going to have riders, like, if I'm Kristen Kulczynski, I have to race with my own ambitions today as well, and try to get a result. I mean, she's been knocking on the door for a while. This the Swedish Swifting team, we have not mentioned enough. Don't sleep on these ladies, that's for sure, as we'll be hearing more about them. And Hannah, Tammy Miller. This is a name that broke through in season 3. What a ride she is having out here. This is going to be the Hino, right? You see the Swedish flag, but not racing for Team Swedish Swifters. She's on Hino. So the best defense is a strong, the best offense is a good defense, and the best defense is a good offense. It doesn't even matter at this point, because really for Hino, they're just doing what Hino does. They go into crush mode. And, honestly, that's how you race. And so they're going to like the situation. Louise Huback has been a perennial podium contender. She is one of the most talented riders in ZRL, without a doubt. So, you could really honestly, Hannah, say that about any woman in this group right now, because if you've made this group, you are in the elite class of Swifters. With how hard these women went out, they just put the accelerator down on the floorboard. It's been duct tape on that floorboard since we left, and I don't know who's going to run out of fumes, who doesn't out here, but this is bike racing at its very, very best. Cecile Lejeune, Beth McKeever, Daniela Istrate, she makes the move. There's a nice name to have in this group, the Romanian rider, Hannah.
Yeah, wonderful, isn't it? And we've got such a select group. We take a look at the ride-on so far of tonight. Barbara Frisch leading that scoreboard, with Shayna Powless there in second with 57. Gamst with 47. Caroline Williams with the 46. Beth McKeever there with 40. Kulczynski just gaining one as we were speaking about her. Imogen Cotter with 39. Catherine Curie with 37. Daniela Estrate, the Romanian, with 30, and Clark with 28. You can give these riders a ride on from the comfort of your own home, your sofa, wherever you're watching. Just fire up your Zwift companion app and give some of these riders something to cheer. They'll see your ride on, your name pop up on the screen, and certainly on a course like this with such how intense it is, how hard it is. That'll be a nice little bit of motivation for them to see. So head onto your Zwift companion app and give them some love.
Well, Kristen Kulczynski, if you asked her to tailor make a course, or asked her coach, Josh Click, to set a course for an ideal outcome, well, this would be that course, no doubt about it. If there was a rider that is looking to make hay while it's out in the field, it would be Kristen Kulczynski. She's had a tough week as far as internet, Hannah. The last week, it was devastating to see her not part of the team time trial, and that was she just moved, and getting your internet set up anywhere around the world can be a challenge. Well, unfortunately for Kristen, it affects her life in a major way. She actually moved over to her sister's house. That's not her house that she's racing in. You wonder, boy, the background seems really different the last 3 different weeks. Well, she's found that her sister had the best internet of anyone in her family, and she moved her whole kit and caboodle over to her sister's place. Looks like she's right in the living room. So that is one nice sister as well. And I might have to eat my words here, Hannah. Looks like we're seeing a second group rejoining the front group here. Didn't anticipate this. But again, that's pro bike racing. The ebb and the flow, you never really know the tactics. Back to you, Hannah.
Well, with Kulczynski on the front now, the rider from the USA, this just shows the commitment from these riders, that they're always trying to find those marginal gains, those 1%, those 2% to improve their performance and make sure that they don't have any dropouts or any technical issues, because this is something they're working towards week in, week out, and they want this result. It shows the firepower in that these riders have within them. And they want to perform for themselves, for their teams. And Kulczynski really is one of the standout riders in the ZRL. As you said, Dave, she's been knocking on the door for such a long time now. She's come close. She's had podium positions. It's just the all exclusive win that eludes her at the moment. And I'm sure it won't be long.
Wow, Hannah, when you look at it, this is what bike racing was always meant to be. You can see that second group had fought back. Now, Caroline Williams was taking some massive pulls, but I don't know. So it's almost like you show up at the train station. right as the train is leaving and rolling, and you are running and trying to throw your suitcase onto the caboose and grabbing a hold of a rail and getting on because it is leaving the station right now. So Kolchinsky starts to up the pace. I know, so Caroline Williams made it back for Heino here. You can see Nelson right in the middle of this group. We're going to do a little reshuffling of this deck. Talk about a dynamic race out here. So as you watch now, that's going to be Celia Hansen here, one of the Heino riders, going through a little bit of trouble, but she's up out of the saddle. I think she rejoins here, Hannah. What do you think?
Well, this would be absolute devastation for Heino, and you can see how much effort she's putting in to try and get back on terms. 178 beats per minute her heart rate currently is, and if you just take a look at that power, actually the group, I think, is starting to ever so slightly ride away from her. So this isn't good news for the team of Heino. They have a couple of riders in that front group, that leading group. They have Louise Huback, they have Alice Lethbridge. So currently they have the two riders, Caroline Williams, as you mentioned, Dave. She's just got onto terms as well, so she's just made it. Heino have three riders, and Hansen will really will be vying to try and get back to this group.
Canyon's got a couple riders here. Cécile Lejeune having a strong ride, the French woman, and Bexy Dew up there. So there's a couple of the ladies from Canyon. I mentioned Tammy Miller, breakthrough rider of the season. As I've moved Beth McKeever into the all-star super elite group, this is a bit of a surprise, I must say. Now, this is the kind of day, though, where a rider like Hansen might start coming around again, especially if it gets tactical, as it looks like it's starting to right now here, Hannah, in this front group. And as soon as it does, it's going to be Beth again, just relentless. I am really, really a fan of Beth McKeever. I have a feeling, Hannah, that when you want to look at the backgrounds of our esport riders, coming from the world of running, not a bad place at all. They learn how to suffer and make these efforts early. Rowing and running seem to be two of the sports. There's Steph Clutterbuck again. She's had an outstanding season here. I mean, when you look at this group here, now I'm surprised to see it enlarging, to tell you the truth. Lizzie Duncan is going to be happy to be back up in the mix. So, yeah, boy, it's a night. Barbara Frisch is there. I haven't mentioned Nellie Larson enough this season. She quietly, Hannah, has been one of the most consistent riders in the ZRL, the Swedish Swifters rider there. We're back in with Lizzie Duncan of the Vision team. Lizzie, a world-class triathlete. I think it's really exciting to see that she jumps in with the ZRL as well. As these days, I wouldn't say there's a lot of triathletes that participate in the ZRL, but it's not an overwhelming number of triathletes these days. But Lizzie certainly represents that world very well.
Well, as you say, it's increasing that we're seeing a lot of riders who are in the ZRL who combine running races, triathlete races. I'm thinking the likes of Steph Clutterbuck is one of those riders, and actually the strength really pays off for these riders. And it's almost like the fitness levels, the efforts that they have to exert go hand in hand with the style and the type of racing we have here on Zwift. And just to run through the riders, we have 17 riders in this leading group. Just to run through so we can get an idea, you can obviously see the top 10 on the right of your screen, but we have Alice Lethbridge of Heino, we have Lizzie Duncan of Vision E Racing, Louise Huback of Heino, Courtney Nelson of Saris and the Pros Closet, we have Cécile Lejeune, Canyon Esports, Tammy Miller, Cryo RDT, who've had a great season this year, Beth McKeever of Movistar E-Team along with Steph Clutterbuck, Bexy Dew, Canyon Esports, Natalie Stevenson, another rider from Cryo RDT, Julia Shallow from Beast Mode Powered by Rose, Christine Kulczynski of 2024, Catherine Curie has made it over from I Race Like a Girl, Nellie Larson, who you were just speaking about, Dave, Team Swedish Swifters. We have Barbara Frisch of Ionian Race Team, Daniela Estrate of Ionian as well, and Caroline Williams is the 17th rider there for Heino. So Heino are in a strong position right now.
And they've got two riders in the next group behind us here, a very strong chase group, so you never really know what's going to happen, but I completely agree with you. So when you look at it, we talked about the wins. So we are into our 8th race of season 3. Now, 3 of them were team time trials. So when you look at who has been winning out here, those women are all safely ensconced in this group. Beth McKeever, she's had a couple big wins. Obviously, Catherine Curie is one of the, I would say, biggest threats that we have without any doubt out here today. We talked about how Kolchinsky is hungry, but she hasn't been to the buffet yet. She has not yet been on top of the podium. Now, again, that's not necessarily the name of the game here. We've talked about Heino's success. It was nice to see Alice Lethbridge get a win for Heino because they actually had been doing it based on the team, as one would in a team-based league, but they had never really worried so much about the top step of the podium. They worried about getting more riders into the top 10 than anyone else. But sometimes one thing will follow another. But out here today, this is going to be a next level win for one of our individuals. And I know that Beth McKeever is absolutely thinking, and I love her confidence, the Scottish rider, that this is her race out here today. And you really have to have that mindset, Hannah, going into this. As they say, if you think you can't win, you surely won't. If you think you can, you got a chance.
You certainly have, and it's all about that mindset, isn't it? Having that confidence of yourself and being mentally strong, and also giving the encouragement to your teammates, whether that be all having a group phone call before you start your warm-up before the race. You speak about the tactics and you're all motivating each other, and we can just see on the right side of the screen, I'm not sure if some riders are going to try and close this gap. It looks around 50 seconds, and Mary Wilkinson is one of those riders who's in there for Canyon Esports, so she's one of the biggest riders to miss out on this leading group of 17.
I would agree. I mean, when you look at it for Canyon, if they can keep doing work out here, almost like a sled dog team, they would be able to do themselves a huge favor, because you never really know up in that front group, Hannah, when riders are going to start looking at each other and realizing that, the name of the game here is helping everybody else finish what's on their plate before you get into your meal, right? And if you keep taking big, hard pulls to hold off a group behind you, you might be burning matches that other riders aren't. And that's really what makes this such a Machiavellian chess match out here for our director sportives. You mentioned Lars Hushbell of the Heino team. He does a tremendous job of analyzing moment by moment what's our best play here, always remembering the long game. In with Mary Wilkinson of the Canyon team, a rider that has been another one of the stars of ZRL throughout our seasons here. You can always count on Mary for a result. It looks like she's starting to come good, Hannah.
She certainly is. She's really been a stalwart over the years, hasn't she, in Zwift Esports? I mean, she's been incredible. The results that she's been able to achieve. She was also a Zwift Academy finalist, trying to win that pro contract with the Canyon SRAM UCI professional team. Just Mary Wilkinson, she's really been there and done it. She's been there up there in the national championships as well. And it's great to see races in real life as well, and had some wonderful results out on the road. So for Mary Wilkinson, yeah, she really is one of the standout riders in esports. And just taking a look back to this front group, Lethbridge up towards the front, so she wants to try and really put some pressure down and stop the any of those chasing groups getting back on terms. And she really wants to try and split this and put the riders under pressure, because Heino are in a strong place here. They have the 3 riders in the front group.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you couldn't really be in a better position. And Alice Lethbridge, I mentioned, Hannah, that she has won this season. She is really on some great form right now. Saw that she was doing some in real life racing. And you don't find a classier rider than Alice Lethbridge, as she now makes another surge. That's going to be Courtney Nelson sitting in the yellow and green. I knew Courtney was going to have a great day when we looked at that start, and she's continuing to represent herself and her team, Sarah's the Pros Closet, incredibly well. There's Louise Huback, who's another one of the, so many times when the racing gets tough is when you see Louise moving up to the front. But Lethbridge has hit out, and you can see that arch here. Get ready to start scoring as we move to the top of Leith Hill, and it looks like Lethbridge is going to use that feather perfectly. Talked about the power-ups earlier, so it looks like McKeever there in the blue is going to try to hunt her down, but they're going to run out of real estate here on Leith, as that's going to do it there, as Alice will be through for 15. Her teammate, so 1-2, 1-2. Hits don't quit from Heino out here today, Hannah. Perfect job by that squad in red.
Absolute wonderful job, hey, and you just saw as well her power output as well, using that lightweight feather power up. You can see the results there on the left hand side. Lethbridge with the maximum points of 15, Huback with the 12, so again they backed it up with the first Queen of the Mountain. Makiva of Movistar in the blue, who took the 10 points. Nelson with the 8, Kulczynski taking the 6, Barbara Frisch of Ionian taking 5, Nelly Larson of Team Swedish Swifters with the 4, Tammy Miller with the 3, Catherine Curie getting up there with the 2, and Cecile Lejeune for Canyon Esports with the 1. And again, this has split things up once again. 5 riders starting to go clear, and it's Tammy Miller who's the rider who's having to do all the chasing. And there we see the overall standings for the team right now. Heino almost running away with this, or riding away with it, should I say, with 55 points to Sarasander Pro's Closet's 18. Movistar E-Team, who are joint there on second with 18 points. 2024 with 11, Cryo RDT with the 9. Team Swedish Swifters with 8, along with Ionian Race Team. Canyon Esports with 3, and I Race Like a Girl, the only other team to score points there, in ninth place with the 2 points. And look at this for 5 riders to go clear. Makiva, Lethbridge, Huback, Kulczynski. Wow. And Nelson, I should add to
Nelson,
that group of
right.
5.
Yeah, wow. Well, I mean, it's almost impossible, Hannah, for me to imagine a group like this coming back if these women want to work together, and I think that they have pot committed here. They've gone all in. Every chip gets shoved into the middle of the table. It's like the Old West out here now. This is going to be a shootout as we take a look at a very interesting race scenario. Hannah, this is incredibly exciting.
It is, and I'm just taking a look at the speeds of these riders on this descent. They're not holding back. 72 kilometers per hour on this descent. After the effort that they've just made over the top of Leith Hill, and then to press on and push over the top of this climb to try and make a further gap to Barbara Frisch, who's the rider who's trying to chase this down, the rider out of Argentina. This is incredible stuff, and the gap is holding steady at 3.6 seconds.
Well, Catherine Curie saying nobody puts baby in a corner right now, as Catherine Curie is going to fight back into this front group, and she's got one rider to help her here, Cecile Lejeune. That's going to be the difference here. These two will join the front group, but they're going to burn, I was going to say matches, they're going to burn a stick of dynamite to get back here, Hannah. But Catherine Curie, again, will not be put in the corner. She's a 3-time winner in the ZRL, and she's coming for the front group.
Well, she's in the into that super tug, 84 kilometers per hour she is chasing at, and she is starting to close that gap ever so slightly, and 6.9 seconds. She has Lejeune just in her wheel almost, but Curie, she isn't going to wait for nobody. She wants to make that front group, and there Catherine Curie in her picture-in-picture. Wow, and an incredibly low heart rate as well for the pressure and the how hard the rate has been. 145 beats per minute here.
Yeah, wow. Catherine Curie lives in Palo Alto, California. Stanford University's power grid just shut down because Catherine Curie has sucked every watt out of it here as she makes a huge effort. She's getting some riders to come up and join. Boy, what a tremendous dynamic this moment has in the race, because Catherine Curie not being in that front group changes everything for the ladies up there. Having Curie there makes it much, much harder to win. So, boy, will they get back? Let's see who Curie has working with her now. Tammy Miller, Barbara Frisch. As I had heard Lizzie Duncan's name over comms a little bit earlier, and there she is, popping in, the vision rider there, the ginger. As let's see now the front group here, how well are they working together, Hannah? What kind of a chance do you give them to hold off this group? Because if this group is going to join, they're going to want to do it through this sector right now, because the next time the climbing gets really heavy, it's going to be harder and harder to bring back those 5. Every one of them climbs like an angel.
They certainly do. They just dance on those pedals, don't they? And that leading group of 5 are working very, very well together. But actually, likewise with this chasing group, with Curie inside, we have Frisch, as you mentioned, we have Larson, we have Duncombe, we have Shallout, we have Miller, we have Lejeune. And these riders, they want to get back to this front group. And they want to try and do it before we get to the next Queen of the Mountain. And they are slightly starting to make some inroads. 7.2 seconds is the gap now. So they've taken and they've shaved a 1 second off that gap to the 5 leaders. But really, it's now or never. It's going to be that make or break for these riders if they want to get back on terms for the win.
Yeah, I would say, Hannah, when it's flat or downhill or even a false flat, that larger group with a lot of riders participating and making the work at the front, they've got a good chance. But once it goes back into these grades and we're going to be on Box Hill now, we're talking about, let's use 5% as a number. And 5%, that tips the advantage back to the small group. Do you follow my thinking there? This small group has such tremendous climbers. Now, looking at the benefit, the physics that you have with a larger chase group with riders rolling through, taking short, hard pulls, well, that all changes when you get onto these climbs. And I mean, some of the breakaways that have really been the difference makers in season 3, if you remember that Richmond cobbled climbs race, that was quite a day when we had it was Kristen Kolchinski and Beth McKeever in a long late race breakaway. Well, they've got even a little more help and just as much motivation, and I like that recipe. I like their chances out of this group of 5 today.
I have to agree, Dave. I certainly have to agree, because the cohesion that they have currently within this leading group of 5, they're doing a great job. They're all sharing the workload, as opposed to the chasing group, where actually you can see the urgency of the riders who are wanting to make it back across. Cryoar DT's Tammy Miller, Catherine Curie from I Race Like a Girl, they're almost just putting the power down, and the other riders in the group, the likes of Frisch, Lejeune, Nelson, Larson, they're just unable to respond to those hits, and then they come back together, and then they just keep losing time ever so slightly. So the gap's gone back out to 8.3 seconds. So this is going to be a hard fight and a hard chase on their hands. Meanwhile, in the right-hand picture-in-picture, the leading group of 5 still continue with that cohesion, with that workload sharing between them.
Hannah, I don't see a lot of games being played in that front group, and I honestly think that yellow and green jersey there, this is in no way a surprise to me. And I think for people who, you have to recognize that there's never been a sport where the amount of deposits that you make at the pain bank, you get to take one really big withdrawal. It seems like today might be the day that Courtney's going to make that withdrawal. Talking about Courtney Nelson here, former 2024 rider, moving over to Saris the Pros Closet here during the ZRL. And this would be a breakthrough ride for her and her confidence. And I really do like her chances. I think that this is a group that she does have a chance to win out of. There's Kristen Kolchinski. We've talked quite a bit about Kristen throughout all 3 seasons of the ZRL. She's been a very ambitious rider, has done a great morale for that 2024 team, has been so close. But I mean, that's really the reality of the sport, Hannah, is it's one thing to be good, it's one thing to make the selections, but that quantum leap that you make, and very few riders make it up into that group that can win, not just be solid, but actually win. That is what the champion standard is. And I'll tell you, this will be a champion standard type win that we're going to have today in the ZRL. This, to me, would be the most significant, the World Championships and what we're doing today in the ZRL. These would be 2 of the benchmark days.
They certainly will. And this, for any rider, and we have said, this is a team event. This is where teams want to win the team classification. But just to get an individual win at the end of tonight on Surrey Hills, that would be held in high regard, just by the brutal force of the course and how difficult it has been. And as we mentioned before, just less than 1,000 meters of elevation in 44 kilometers of racing. It is so difficult out there tonight, and we can just see how composed and confident Louise Huback looks in her picture-in-picture. Just keeping the gear turning over quite nicely with a steady RPM, revs per minute at 73. just dancing
One
on
of
the
the
pedals
things-
ever so nicely, and she has that group now has a 10-second lead.
Yeah, and as you even say that, it goes to 11, Hannah. So this is they're leaving. They're definitely trying to take advantage of this next couple of minutes that they have here in the race to try to pad that advantage. As it doesn't look like anybody in this front group has interest in letting that second group join here. You start taking a look at Kolchinsky, Nelson, Huback, who are in with. I mean, one of the things that, well, it looks like Catherine Curie is going to try to come across. Catherine Curie is bridging now, so take a look at this. You can watch the numbers over there. It's now that gap is coming down to 5 seconds. So Curie has hit an afterburner. This is a stunner right now. Catherine Curie didn't want to bring the whole group. Boy, that is a savvy bike racer, Hannah. She hit so hard, she threw a pulverizer at that group, got the gap. They're not in a draft. She went from group to group, station to station, like an astronaut out there.
Wow. What
That's
a
one
ride
of the
for
biggest
Catherine
moments we've
Curie
ever
to
seen. Oh, no,
incredible.
another one's
And then we
coming,
just
Hannah.
take a look at those numbers. I think
sounds
Larson's
like
trying to
Larson
get
is coming.
across now with.
Oh, my goodness, Hannah. She sees Curie do it. She sits back for 30 seconds and goes, how about them apples? And tries herself. Can Larson do it? I was saying how the Swedish Swifter we really haven't talked about her enough. Nellie Larson, let's see if she can join the elite front group here in the final race of season 3 in the ZRL. Oh, we couldn't ask for any more than this. And she does it. There she is. The Swedish Swifter has joined. I tell you what, Nellie Larson, you are a legend.
Wow. Well, I mean,
Hannah?
it's wonderful for fans sitting at home. What a spectacle! I mean, for these riders to make that effort and right on time as well. Just as we get to Box Hill, the climb that was featured in the Olympic Games back in London in 2012, and we're onto those lower slopes. And I just hope that these riders, after that monstrous effort, can hold on and react to any attacks that might come their way. But Nellie Larson, again, just out the saddle, dancing on the pedals, and actually a heart rate, quite respectable for such an effort that she's just put in. And I was just looking at the watts per kilo from both of those riders, Larson and Curie, as they were trying to come across. And it was in, 6.4 watts per kilo, and they were holding that for quite some considerable amount of time.
Hannah, call your friend, or not you, I need you to stay on point. But hey, everybody out there, call your friends. If they're having Giro d'Italia withdrawals, this bike racing is so awesome. It's not even funny. Hannah, the front group is now larger than the chase group, as that shift of power there with Curie going across and then Larson doing the same. Well, now this front group has got even more motivation to stay clear. My heart goes out to the riders that are sitting in Group 2, as Julia Shalau doing a tremendous job of trying to lead that group. She's got Lizzie Duncan with her, Tammy Miller. This really is, when you look at it, Natalie Stevenson, Steph Clutterbuck, Esteboval is leading the third group out on the road, but Julia, Natalie, Steph, and they are really fighting to get up into this group. So no points at the top of this climb. So box, we don't score. We do again on Keith, and then Fox will be all of our final points on offer. So no points on box.
But like music
There's
to
a
the
power
ears
up
for
waiting.
these riders after the. I was just going to say, you took the words out of my mouth, Dave, because I think it's like music to their ears after the climb on Box Hill, that they'll have another opportunity to go through the arch and take another power up, which some of these riders, it's vital that they maximize the use of these power-ups. In this group of 7, they're starting to work well together, but just look at the time gap. Tammy Miller has slashed that gap, and she's gone straight through the group for Cryo RDT, straight to the front of this, and she's already started to open up a half a second gap. So that was a huge effort there from Miller, and we have swelled to 8 riders. Lejeune is at 2.5 seconds, likewise with Duncombe as well. We could see a regroup here of a larger group of riders now.
Tammy Miller just put herself into the rocket launcher category. That was incredible, Hannah. I mean, it's certainly one of the things that I've learned in elite cycling is when you see a rider do something that was previously impossible, or when you look at progression in sports like skateboarding or any gymnastics. Once someone does something, all of a sudden a whole bunch of other athletes are able to do it. 4-minute mile, that's a perfect example. Well, it's interesting how when Catherine Curie decided to bridge, well, all of a sudden other women realized that they could. And we've got a little bit of a new scenario out here as we take a look at the Tête de la Corsa, the front of the bike race. Hannah, you mentioned during the Olympics in 2012, it was bananas up on Box Hill. I always remember that was the first time I ever heard about cell phone coverage being impossible to get because there were so many people up there that they just shut it down. Tammy Miller, though, is now in our Hall of Legends after that last move. She's a real gladiator, Tammy Miller. We'll hear a lot more about the Cryo RDT rider in the future. I said breakthrough star of the season, Hannah. I think you'd sign off on that.
I completely agree. And Cryo RDT, as we've mentioned this throughout this season, they lost two of their stalwart riders in the likes of Beth McKeever and Steph Clutterbuck to the Movistar E-Team. So actually the way they've been able to perform without two of those outstanding riders, they've really stepped up, and Miller has been one of those riders. And likewise to what you just said, as soon as you see one rider do something, how they perform, and they show it's possible, other riders follow, and Tammy Miller has been one of those riders. And just over the top of this climb, Louise Huback isn't happy with this group. She's seen it started to get a little bit too big, and she wants to try and press on, even though there's no points at the top of this climb of Box Hill. She wants to try and shatter things, and she knows some of these riders, the likes of Tammy Miller, Lejeune, they'll be going into that red zone after such a huge effort that they've made. 188 beats per minute for Miller, so that just gives you an indication of how hard this race is.
Credit where credit is due. Lizzie Duncan really knows her Zwift craft, and clearly being near the front as we go over the top in case there is a split, because it's entirely possible. Look at the speeds that they're starting to pick up right now. This is like being on a rocket ship on train rails coming back down as we make our way to the bottom of box, and then it's Keith Hill coming up next, and brace yourselves as it's going to be ballistic on that climb. Louise Huback, again, one of the obvious criteria of being on the Hino team is class. That just seems to shine through with every rider on that squad, as you can't talk about them enough, Hannah, to tell you the truth, what they have done through the last 3 seasons. And it almost forces you into moving on from that storyline. But I want to remember the fact that, outside of one real outlier of a day where they had all kinds of technical problems, and to be honest, it was just that day that is inevitable in sport, where this time it wasn't their legs, it was technology, basically, that took them out of the win. But outside of that day, they have been as close to perfect. And I'm not talking about like Eddie Merckx perfect, winning about, a third to half of the races that you start. I'm talking about winning just about every race that they've taken on in the ZRL. And, even though they have a 5-point lead coming into today, they are not backing off. I mean, it's clearly a no quarter asked for and no quarter given situation out here every time we race ZRL. And that's exactly the way these women want it. No gifts.
Yeah, no one gives an inch to each other. There certainly is no gifts, and no one gives an inch to their opponents, because they're all here. They want to win. They have that firepower, and they want to perform week in, week out. I just noticed as well that Nellie Larson, she was almost breaking the speed of light then, 88 kilometers per hour on that descent, getting into that super tuck, and there was a few riders who weren't maximizing that point in the race where it was infrequent amount of recovery for those riders, and the descents are few and far between. But here we are, the ride-ons. Barbara Frisch leading the competition with 106 ride-ons from all you fans sitting at from wherever you are. Shayna Powers with 95, Gamst with 88, Imogen Cotter of Movistar E-Team with 81, Beth McKeever, her Cotter's teammate, with 78, Curry with 78, Tracy with 57, Huback with 54, and likewise with Hansen from Heino with the 52. Kulczynski there, I think I mentioned her with 79, but as I mentioned before, fire up your Zwift companion app and go out and give some of these riders a ride on. It really will give them that extra little bit of motivation just to see that you're supporting them during the final race in the ZRL.
Barbara Frisch of the Aeonian race team. There was a really nice feature on that team going back to the most recent World of Zwift with OJ Borge. Always recommend that people join. OJ is awesome. I see he's getting ready for a big gravel race, so he's got an interesting 4 weeks ahead of him, but we sure, he races in our community league and all of that community racing going on today as well as we move into our final Premier League race for Season 3. And if you're just joining us, welcome. Joined at just the right time. We've got a little over 15K ahead of us, but it's going to be very dynamic. This front group, surprisingly, Hannah, it's shrunk, it's grown again. It's like an amoeba. You never really know what it's going to look like when you come back to look at it 3 minutes later, because it splits, it rejoins, it eats itself, it attacks itself. It's quite a show that we're witnessing, but things are settling down for the moment. Although once we get into the thick of it on Keith, and to talk about Keith, there are some 8% kicks that if you're gonna go, that's where I think you launch your rocket, like Courtney Nelson is right now.
And that's one of the. It certainly is, and that's one of the last Queen of the Mountains for the riders to score on before they score big at the finish line. But just see the effort from Julia Shallow of Beast Mode Power by Rose, the effort that she's having to put in to respond to these moves. A slight gap is starting to open on these slopes. Kulczynski, the rider at the front, dishing out the pain here to all the other riders. She's the only rider in this front group from Team 2024, so she wants to try and maximize this, try and get rid of a few of the riders out of this front group. And she certainly is starting to do that. Is Shallow she's just struggling with that pace. Another two riders as well. Also, Larson and Duncombe starting to struggle with the pace as well. And with 14.9 kilometers to go, it's now or never for these riders. Just look at the damage.
Well, Hannah, I mean, when you think about it, cycling is such a cruel, cruel sport, because Kristen Kulczynski right now is putting riders out the back door like an evil conductor here. She is punching ticket after ticket. Now, that doesn't guarantee that she's going to win the race, and this speaks to what a complicated sport this is. But right now, Kulczynski going into full-on beast mode here. She has strung this group out. There's going to be riders that have to let go. We're going to see multiple splits opening up. This is Kulczynski in her element, as this woman is a cocktail napkin with an outboard motor attached to it right now. It's going to be Courtney Nelson trying to get up and join her, Alice Lethbridge, Lise Huback. Don't worry about Heino, but I am worried about a few other riders in this group. It's going to be a really tough next minute here.
Well, just to give you some indication of the effort that Kulczynski is putting in, 188 beats per minute. So she really is getting towards her upper limit, but just out the saddle, dancing on the pedals. And taking a look at Julia Shallow, who was the rider who she's just really put under pressure and Julia Shallow unable to respond to this move. She's now 16 seconds in arrears, and her heart rate is 198 beats per minute.
Well, we have our OSS situation. Only the strong survive here in the Surrey Hills now. It's a group of four: Kulczynski, Huback, Lethbridge, and Nelson. A second group behind them at, let's call it, well, Catherine Curie's going to fight up here. Curie will not let go of this group, and it looks like a few other riders are going to try to follow that lead as Barbara Frisch, Miller, Lejeune, McKeever. I'm surprised to see Beth back here. I expect to see her rallying. You know, Hannah, on a long day like today, 44K, you're going to see riders now going deeper than they've had to at any point in the ZRL. From here on in, only heroes need apply.
Certainly is, and we have now a select group. Huback, Nelson, Lethbridge, Kulczynski. It's 2 seconds back to Curie. Miller as well is on her own there, 3.8 seconds. And then we have Frisch as well, who's just joined up with Miller. Then further 5 seconds back, we have Lejeune. And McKeever's time now has gone out to 19 seconds. She's in 9th place on the road for Movistar, but she's the only rider from that esports team in this in contention for a win here. So it's not looking too good for McKeever, the rider from Scotland. But this group out front, they now have a new passenger in the name of Curie.
And a few more with her here, Hannah. So, boy, it's like feeling blackjack in Las Vegas. You are just constantly shuffling the deck over and over here in the front group. But as we hit inside 14K to go, Lethbridge has been phenomenal today, as has Courtney Nelson. This was the ride that Courtney Nelson has been waiting for. Beautiful to see it happening out here today. A few more riders are coming back with Catherine Curie, Barbara Frisch. It looks like Tammy Miller is also going to be able to rejoin here. Cecile Lejeune is now the next rider trying to get back on. You can see what a fight this is. Everybody is in their own private world of pain out here, and this is what Heino does. I mean, they are just pulverizing. They time things so well now. They're not pulverizing Courtney Nelson. Kristen Kulczynski also has been incredibly strong out here today, but right now Heino is trying to see if they can pry loose a few more riders from the back of this group. Catherine Curie there on the wheel of Kulczynski, and Kulczynski is talked right back into the slipstream. I mean, these ladies, they're moving fast enough up this climb that there actually is a draft, and it looks like Barbara Frisch from Aeonian has rejoined the front group, so that's going to be Cecile Lejeune, I believe. That's the rider right now closing down that gap, hammering away. Boy, the term relentless certainly comes to mind here, Hannah. On the front, Heino just stamping their authority all over the bike race, but never forgetting, we've got one last trip up Fox to follow up the time up Keith Hill, but it looks like Heino's going to gobble up a lot of points again at our next QOM, Hannah.
Well, we look at this road and it almost looks flat, but I can tell you it's not. They are climbing. They have a slight ascent. And the speed, as you just alluded to, Dave, they're traveling at 23 kilometers per hour on this type of gradient. So it just shows how difficult it is for these riders. And Cecile Lejeune, the rider out of France for Canyon Esports, is doing everything in her will to try and make it back to these riders. She's 11 seconds in her ear. She's closing that gap down to 10 seconds. And you can just see the power that she's putting out and the effort. She's right next to the window trying to get as much ventilation as she can just to keep the core body temperature as cool as possible. It's so incredibly important for these riders. But Lejeune, she has the bit between her teeth, and she has those riders dangling in her sight to try and get back to.
Boy, I tell you, Hannah, chasing Heino is like chasing vapor. It is really frustrating. And you look at it now, Courtney Nelson is the one rider that has found that next level out here. A feather being used here. So again, you can see an arch is coming up as we have a fairly flat run-in now to the point collection arch that we're looking at. That's going to be Louise Huback, Alice Lethbridge. It's going to be the third Heino 1-2 here at our intermediate scoring points. So the Queen of the Mountain points have been really, really going to Heino at an impressive rate out here. And there it is, another 1-2 for Heino, Courtney Nelson for third, and it looks like Kristen Kulczynski will hold on for fourth place points there. We'll get a look at how things stand for our individuals and the teams up to this point of the race. 12.2K to go.
Well, it's all about that timing, isn't it, Dave? Huback attacked at the right moment there to pick up the maximum points, open up the gap, and Lejeune just comes across the line to pick up some points. So Huback with the 15, Lethbridge with the 12, so extra points there for Heino. Courtney Nelson picking up another valuable 10 points for Sarah Sandler Pro's Closet. Kristen Kulczycki with the 8, Tammy Miller for Cryo RDT with the 6, Barbara Frisch for Ionian with the 5, Catherine Curie taking 4 points, and Cecile Lejeune with the 3. And we can just see Beth McKeever come across the line there. I think she'll pick up the 2 points, and it'll be close there on the line for the solitary point on Keith Hill. There we go. Larson picks up that solitary point. So it'll be interesting to see the team overall results, and it is going to be Heino who are going to extend that lead. They did have previously 55, and there we go. 82 points to Sarisan, the Pros Closets 28. 20 points there for Movistar E-Team at 2024 with 19, Cryo RDT with 15, Ionian Race Team with 13, Swedish Swifters with the 9, and Canyon Esports and I Race Like a Girl tied in 8th position on 6 points.
At this point, Heino is playing with the house's money here, Hannah. 50 points for the first rider over the finish line. And I mean, they have more than a 50-point advantage on any other team out here. So they're in incredibly good shape. And that's a surprise to absolutely no one who's been following the ZRL. It's Heino doing what Heino does. Let's take a look at the rest of the riders up in this front group now. So Catherine Curie, if she was a normal racer, Hannah, I would say I couldn't expect my best from her or her best in the finale after what she's had to do chasing this front group down a couple of times. But she's absolutely anything but a normal rider and will be a part of the finale without any doubt. Don't be surprised if she wins the race out here today. She's done it 3 times before in the ZRL, and we are just wrapping up our 3rd season. And to factor in, close to half of those races have been team time trials out here. Riders who are looking for their breakthrough win, well, she's been really consistent and has had a tremendous number of wins in the Zwift community, is Barbara Frisch. I think that for all intents and purposes, Courtney Nelson would be my, maybe an outside shot, but the way she's been working, the way she's riding today, it just feels like she's got an angel on her shoulder. Something special is happening for Courtney Nelson today.
It does, and just being able to react to all the moves that have gone off the front. She's been there, she's been in those moves, she's never missed a beat tonight. And as you say, it's like she's riding with an angel on her shoulders. She's dancing up the climb, she's there, she's able to recover very, very well. And one of those riders who can definitely pounce in that finish. Likewise, as you said with Catherine Curie, that she's an extraordinary athlete. We forget how much experience she has within this sport. She's been here for many, many years. And is this a move going off the front? Tammy Miller making a move for Cryo RDT.
Wow, she's lit this one up. I love the courage here. What a bold. So, we talked about her being the, air quotes, rookie of the year. Well, she is ready to throw down. Tammy Miller, welcome to the big time in the ZRL. We're going to go in camera with Tammy Miller. Now give you all things considered, she's in really good shape here. Her heart rate under 150 beats per minute. This is an exceptional athlete that we're looking at right now.
At this point in the race as well, Dave, to have your heart rate like that and look so comfortable, taking a drink, she's looking calm, she's looking relaxed, she's not fazed by the moves that are probably about to come, she's not fazed by the moves that she's had to follow and close down and chase. This is a brilliant ride from the British rider Tammy Miller.
And most people's heart rate gets higher than that when someone knocks on the door. Tammy Miller riding in the front group of... This is an incredible sign for Tammy Miller out here. 2 big new names to talk about. I guess Courtney Nelson isn't a new name, but racing at this level in this elite front group, this is fresh. It's fun to watch riders finding a new level out here. And, you certainly can't say that about Heino. That's not a criticism, but they're not surprising anyone, Hannah. That's for sure. This is the same old Heino that we've gotten to know quite well.
Well, they've got such a high magnitude, the way that they've been winning from season to season to season, the strength and depth that they have within the team, like you say, it's not a surprise, but the thing that they're consistent, they're dominant, they really do this to perfection, and as you said, they don't win individual races in the ZRL very often. Lethbridge, that was quite a surprise, I have to say, because what they always want to do is make sure they win the team on the night, which is what they've done. 4 times in Season 3 in the ZRL.
Hannah, in this front group, there's a way that you could see any one of these riders having a path to victory. And I love that kind of parity that we're looking at. Barbara Frisch might have the most complicated path, but for her, it's going to be timing. She's going to need Luke Skywalker-like timing to pull this one off. But I love that she's in the mix. And here's another cool thing to note, racing out of Argentina. Something that we are really supportive of in the ZRL is seeing South American and Central American riders. In the community, we've got a great team that would be Central America with Costa Rica, but always good to see Barbara Frisch representing a whole nother continent here, and that's what Aeonian is about. It's a worldwide brand of a team with some of the best mojo out there. That's going to be Barbara there in camera, and you can see her safely on the back of the group. I think everybody, Hannah, right now waiting for what's going to be the ultimate throwdown here. It's going to be every woman for herself when we hit the bottom. I would expect, well, if I had to guess, Kolchinski goes first, and then everybody just basically we find out whether you've got it or not. It's not going to be fancy. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to just be the gladiators of Zwift having a battle royale. Pretty much what we signed up for.
It is, and it's what we come for week in, week out, and they throw down those high watts for the finish. But it'll be interesting to see what Heino do in this move. Will they try and send one rider up the road, which will force the riders, the likes of Nelson, Kulczynski, Curry, to chase it back, Miller as well. And so for Heino, they really do have the upper hand because the other riders in this group, they don't have any teammates to do any work to try and chase things back to bring the attacks back. So for Heino, it's all into their hands.
You know, Hannah, in life, I've learned some of the smartest people, they'll always let other people speak first, right? And listen, I have a feeling Heino is so next level, and so I'm with you. Any other team, I would say 100% Hannah, you attack with one rider, you make them chase, and then you counter with your next. I have a feeling that Heino lets you play your cards first today. I think that they're that confident, that savvy, and just trusting in their process. But again, completely agreeing with you on that note, because any other team, that's what you'd do. I think Heino decides to wait.
Well, only 5.2 kilometers left of this race for us to find out, and over an hour of racing so far on the clock there. So really one of the longest races we've had in the ZRL, and it's been body blow after body blow, taking one of your sayings there, Dave, because really we haven't had a moment to catch our breath, and nor have these riders.
Hannah, I haven't seen this kind of dynamic yet in any esports race that I've ever watched, where we've seen the second group chase back 2, maybe even 3 times. You've seen riders that you thought were on the canvas who've gotten back up and found a second wind out here. Heino has done everything they can to devastate this race out here today, and there are still riders like Kristen Kolchinski who are more than holding their head above water. This is the moment, right here, right now in Surrey Hills for Kristen Kolchinski. I know that she wants this as badly as anyone wants anything, is a win at this level. When you're racing against the best, Hannah, it really makes the victory that much sweeter. You look at what are the metrics that you judge a win on? The quality of the competition, the quality of the course. Those are the 2 big ones. Well, Charlie hit it out of the park with the course here today. As a matter of fact, this entire season, Charlie, fantastic job. Now, what these racers have is right now an opportunity to make their mark in the ZRL. Catherine Curie, she's a 3-time winner. She wakes up and expects to be in this front group. I think Courtney Nelson, on the other hand, is looking around saying, opportunities like this don't come along enough, do they, Hannah? And special riders, they know how to make the most of these opportunities.
They certainly do, and as you say, sometimes for some riders, you know, depending on their riding style and what course we have in the ZRL, they just don't get that opportunity to win because it's all in for the team. But as you say, for these riders, when you look at the riders they have around them, whoever takes this victory tonight, across the line on Fox Hill individually, it's going to be a well-fought victory that they will take. And Lejeune, it'll be interesting to see what her time gap is, Dave. In these
I'm
closing...
looking at 23 seconds, and yeah, she's still there.
Yeah, well,
unfortunately, this group isn't going to lay back at all, Hannah. I mean, it might get a little tactical, but they continue to press up here. I mean, right now they're rolling at 35 k/h. I mean, it is coming down. You picked a great time to pick up on Cecile Lejeune, the Canyon rider here, as it's down, getting close to 20 seconds now. A lot of heart being shown here. And let's remember, Hannah, 30 deep, we score the points at the finish. So even though we're focusing on this incredible front group, there are still riders that are picking up major points that are in, well, in Cecile's case, she's not in a group. She's sitting 8th on the road. To recap for everyone, you've got Lethbridge, Frisch, Curie, Huback, Nelson, Kolchinski, and Miller in our front group with 19 now, Hannah. Boy, you called her out at the exact right moment. She is really coming like a freight train now.
Yeah, well, all that takes is for this front group to start looking at each other. No one wants to take up the charge at the front. No one wants to set the pace because they're all starting to look at each other. They know each other are a threat, and they want to take those maximum points across the line, which is 50 for the win. That is big bucks on the line. And for Cecile Lejeune, she's keeping that linear effort. You just see the power output that she's doing, and it could be a late opportunity for the French woman to get back into contention if this front group don't start to pick things up and start to get more cohesive as they have been throughout the race.
I don't know if we're going to be able to go back in camera with Catherine Curie, but her heart rate is so incredibly low right now. It is blowing my mind. And if the data is correct, if that heart rate meter is reading correctly, she is going to be, I mean, it's saying 130 at what I'm looking at right now. If that's true, that almost is hard to believe at this point in the race with the effort that would require to be up in this front group. But Catherine Curie has the cardiovascular system of a gorilla, to tell you the truth. I mean, the amount of blood moving through her system must be amazing. Catherine Curie, again, the 3-time winner for I Race Like a Girl, comfortably sitting on the back. Watch out, Hannah. Watch out. This is like a ticking time bomb. When it's starting to ramp up, as they're starting, Catherine Curie is going to go ballistic here. This is going to be brutal.
It is, and her heart rate just rising ever so slightly as the road goes upwards, and 147 beats per minute. And let's not forget, Catherine Curie, a former USA Pro road champion. She's raced on the World Tour, she's raced as a professional out in Europe as well, and she's rode in races like the Tour de l'Ord, the World Cups as well. So Catherine Curie, she boasts so much experience within the sport and now into esports as well. And she's out the saddle, dancing on those pedals, just sitting on Courtney Nelson's wheel. She's just keeping a close eye on the rider in the yellow and green jersey.
Catherine Curie puts the longshoremen to shame when it comes to work ethic. When you look at it, the World Cup that she won, Hannah, was in Geelong, Australia, and that was a season opener. And so that really just speaks to the fact that she knows how to do work in the off season, and she's coming back from a broken arm that she had in May. That's when she really got into Zwift racing, and then it's been nothing but roses when you talk about Catherine Curie. And here we go. Catherine Curie starting to wind it up. Watch that heart rate go up. It's really great to stay. Look at the watts now. You can see the numbers going up over 300 pretty consistently here. These are the metrics that make it really interesting. She's going to sit in on this group now, and I think she's just trying to put a little more charge on that battery. The heart rate now doesn't go below 155 from here on in. Welcome to the finale. We are locked and loaded. There's absolutely no chance that there's only one rider, Cecile Lejeune, sitting at 25 seconds, so they're starting to ride away from her. These are the women that are going to have their moment here, as this is it, Hannah. Let's get ready to rock. Alice Lethbridge to the front, Courtney Nelson right next to her. That's going to be Kolchinski, rider number 24 on her back, as Louise Huback now coming forward. Hino, very patient here. Courtney Nelson to the front.
Well, I think that's the name of the game in this race tonight, is the patience of these riders. Don't go too early. We do have that uphill finish up to Fox Hill. It's 2.4 kilometers in length, and we're already 800 meters into that climb. And the average gradient, 4.9%. And if you look at the profile that we saw at the top of the show, it's a steep ramp to the top before it starts to level off by the finish line. But the most important question as well, what have these riders got left, and what power-up are they saving for the all-important moment?
I mean, Hannah, this is 1 hour and 10 minutes into a race that for these women and men, typically we look at 45, 50 minutes. I'd be curious to know what the average race duration was throughout this season, but this one is a brute. I mean, hour and 10 minutes, and now this. There's going to be some 7% grades. The riders have plenty to work with. Who is going to hit the hardest at the right time? Because it's really interesting. It's not just the effort. Alice Lethbridge now is going to open things up. Courtney Nelson on a next level day. How can you not root for the Californian Courtney Nelson out here for Sarah's to Pros Closet? Catherine Curie now. She's going to be one of the smartest racers. As you mentioned, 2005 U.S. National Road Champion. She has so much in real life. She's been a director as well. So Catherine Curie is one of those riders where the physical ability and the mental ability are at such a high level. I'm going to throw it back to you, Hannah. We're at 1K to go. 1 to go here.
Well, we're under the Flamme Rouge. 1,000 meters of racing left of this finale in the ZRL Season 3. We have 7 riders in this group here, all vying for the individual victory for the big points on the line. 50 points available for the winner. We have Nelson, Curie, Kulczynski, Lethbridge, Frisch. We have Miller, we have Huback. Lejeune is at 41 seconds, but the winner is going to come from this front group as we start to see Catherine Curie there. She's dropped a lightweight power up quite early with 800 meters to go, and she's neck and neck with Nelson here. Kulczynski is just latching onto the wheel of Curie, and it's the rider Lethbridge from Great Britain, from Hainaut in the red jersey, just in the wheel of Kulczynski. But Nelson, she's opened up a gap of 1 second with 750 meters to go.
Here we go. All right, so they say that fortune favors the brave, and Courtney Nelson certainly hopes that that turns out to be true, as she's going to make a long-range attack here. So Courtney Nelson is going to bring this down to 500 meters. You can see that Curie is leading up the chase, and Catherine Curie has made the catch. So there you go. Catherine Curie is now your solo leader. We're inside of 370 meters here. Oh my, this is turning into a drag race. What a Donnybrook we've got here, Hannah.
Well, 3 seconds is the gap to Huback, Miller, Frisch, Kulczynski, Curie and Nelson. They're going clear, but which rider is going to be able to take the victory? The finish line is inside 100 meters remaining. Curie, she opens up that gap to Nelson. She has 4 bike lengths, but she's going to take the victory in the finale of the ZRL. Nelson with the second, and Miller looks like she got up there for third, but Curie, she is the boss.
Oh my. Boom, boom, out go the lights. So Captain Curie with her 4th win in the ZRL, and that one was a masterpiece. Let's go back now as we are looking at some big points here. That's going to be Beth McGeever that I'm talking about with Larson here. So these two are going to be coming in, Nellie Larson and Beth, fighting for 8th and 9th out on course.
And after the big effort that Lejeune did of Canyon Esports, she's been caught. She's in 10th. Lawson and McKeever have gone past Lejeune. And McKeever, she's sprinting for every point available. She's going to take 9th on the night by the looks of things. Lawson there in 9th. Very, very close in Lejeune. Just rounding out the top 10. And here we go for 11th and 12th. And as we said before, there's still big points on the line. Here is Duncombe. She has Julia Chalau with her of Beast Mode, powered by Rose. And they want to try and gain as many points as possible, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. So these were some big rides today from Julia Chalau of Beast Mode, presented by Rose, and Lizzie Duncan. They can be proud of their performances here today. How about that effort there from Beth McGeever coming around, as they actually caught Cecile Lejeune on that final climb. there, as they started almost 25 seconds behind her, but Lejeune still holds on for a top 10, and that was a lot of heart today from the French rider on Canyon Esports.
It certainly was
Stevenson.
a lot of fighting spirit for Lejeune, Dave, wasn't there? As we see on board here with Stevenson and Hansen.
I agree, though, Hannah. This has been really a great way to wrap up the season for the women, as it has been spirited competition. I used the phrase, no quarter asked for and none given. That held true, but it was all done on the up and up. Some very classy racing throughout this season. My congratulations to all of the riders and directors that took part in our third ZRL season. You really put on a great show. Very inspiring stuff.
It certainly is, and we're still on board. 200 meters to go for these riders. Hansen coming into the finish. She's leading by, and she's executed her power up. She's left Stevenson and Daniela Estrate for the line, so she wants to try and gain as many points to make sure that Heino sealed the deal on the night in the finale. She crosses the line in 13th place. Stevenson will come across in 14th by the looks of things. And there we go, another great ride by Daniela Estrate, the Romanian rider from Ionian. And now it's back to 16th place with Steph Clutterbuck, Dave.
Somewhere in Sweden, a bottle of champagne has just popped, as Lars Hushbel will be ecstatic to see his team, as this group of women have really, for us, defined what the ZRL is all about. Class, consistency, power, dedication, and to be honest, reliability. This is Mary Wilkinson. Well, you'd think I was talking about Mary, wouldn't you, with all of those accolades, Hannah, as this is one of the riders that we love having with us in the ZRL.
And we certainly do. Wilkinson, she really is one of the stalwarts. She's been around for a number of years now in Zwift Esports. She was one of the riders who, she's an excellent rider and excellent ambassador for her team, Canyon Esports.
All right, so we're staying with our 30 riders because they're all scoring points for us out here in our 8th and final race of Season 3. So just giving you a little bit of time to meet the women who really have been what the ZRL is all about here for Season 3. I know a lot of folks, Hannah, have been anxiously anticipating the announcements about Season 4, and that is coming. I think you're going to be excited to hear all of the great stuff that Zwift has planned, but there are also a lot of racing this summer. The Zwift Classics to look forward to, and that's for all levels of racing. So if you find yourself inspired, please don't be shy. Get out there and start racing yourself. Here's Shayna Paulus coming in.
Well, just look at the fight for the points for the top 30, because that was a big fight there between Charlotte Coldclough, Bexy Dew, Shayna Paulus there. And as you mentioned before, Dave, it scores all the way down to 30th. So 29 riders have crossed the line, so there's one solitary point left on the road. It's Elisa Haag from Beast Mode Powered by Rose at the minute, who's in 30th position. It doesn't look like she'll be challenged by anyone, and she'll add to that tally for the old German squad, who were a new promotion to the ZRL this season.
And they have scored her as 30th and final point to be distributed here. So that is a wrap on scoring. Let's take a look at our finish line points from today's race. And there she is, the mighty, mighty Catherine Curie. 4th win. What an incredible ride. And remembering that she had to fight back a couple of times out there. All heart today from Catherine Curie. Courtney Nelson, boy, Courtney, you turned a lot of heads today, and certainly that silver medal might as well be gold because you are a hero. Tammy Miller, a breakthrough rider here. Last few weeks in this Season 3, Tammy Miller really showed us that she's world class, and looking forward to great things from our bronze medalist today. Tammy Miller, Kristen Kolchinski, another outstanding ride from the relentless Kolchinski. Her day will come in 4th today for 2024. And then you can see Heino has previous winner, Alice Lethbridge. What a great season Alice had. Good things happen for good people. Alice, 6th place for Barbara Frisch, 7th for Louise Hubach, 8th for Beth McGeever. It's going to be Nellie Larson in 9th, and then Cecile Lejeune, who was a rider we got to feature a little bit today, showing us what the ZRL is all about. Never give up. So that's your top 10. Let's see how the 11th place through 20th place riders fared out there. As we said, every point matters, and Julia Shalau picking up those points for Beast Mode, presented by Rose. It's Lizzie Duncan in for 12th today. Cecilia Hansen getting some more points in High Nose Basket in 13th. Danielle Estrate for 14th today on Aeonian. It's going to be Natalie Stevenson in 15th. Steph Clutterbuck 16th. Esther Boval 17th. Paige Bolt, good ride from Paige there, is in her debut season, finishing in 18th on a very tough day. Megan Armitage there for Cryo in 19th, and Melanie Maurer, the Swiss rider on Hino, gets another. That's the secret to their success. It's everybody out there on Hino fights for the points. We'll look at the next page, and Kirsten Pohl, the German rider on Canyon, in 21st. Carly Johan in 22nd, Stephanie Sidlick and Mary Wilkinson, a couple Canyon teammates, in 22nd, 23rd and 24th. Marlene Bjarret in 25th. Christy Tracy, 26th today. Bexy Dew for 27th. Charlotte Kolkloff for 28th. And then Shayna Palace and Alicia Haag, 29th and 30th today. So that's how our individual riders scored in our provisional results. We talked in the broadcast earlier about dual verification, and all of that will need to be completed before those results become official. So there's our finish line today. We're going to take a look at a replay of that final move that sealed the deal out here today for Catherine Curie. And you can see, like always, Hannah, they certainly don't leave much margin for error out there. What a ride from Courtney Nelson here today. I'll throw it to you, Hannah, to take us through the final few meters.
Incredible, wasn't it? It was Nelson who started to open up, and always Catherine Curie was just there, ready to pounce, and they were neck and neck with a couple of 100 meters to go, and it was Curie who just had that extra level. She opened up a few bike lengths with around 100 meters to go, and she took it by a big winning margin in the end, and at one point, with only a few 100 meters to go, that gap was at 3 seconds to the rider who was third on the road, and actually they were coming in hot to the other riders. The likes of Tammy Miller, just the finish line just came a little bit too soon, but she sealed it for third place, and a wonderful result for the podium placings of Curie, Nelson and Miller. But Curie, really, she's just one of those riders. She's just showing how she can time it to perfection. She has that experience, and one of the most winningest riders in the ZRL of all seasons so far.
Well, yeah, experience is one of those metrics that it comes into play, especially in the finale. These are the team points out here today. So not your season-long team points, but the points earned. And boy, you can see, I mean, they were going 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 over and over again. It was like a dance class out there for Hino today as they pick up 162 points, a command performance in the final race of season 3. Sarah's the Pros Closet had a great day today as they picked up 87 points, and Courtney Nelson, that standout ride. Christy Tracy also awesome today. Cryo RDT, they're going to end up with 78 points in third. And again, this is all of the team members adding their points together in today's race. As we'll take a look then at I Race Like a Girl, the winning team, or the team of the winning rider, ends up with the fourth place points. Go a little bit deeper here. You can see Beast Mode, ATP, TFC, Turbo and Short, and KISS Racing Team. That wraps up the points out there today. So we're going to, again, Hannah, it was quite a season, and I know we'll have you back after the men's race, but let's take a look at our series points as a great way to wrap up the third season here. So Hannah, I'll let you take us through.
Well, just look at the margin that Heino Racing Team took season 3 of the ZRL by 131 points, and you can see 5 overall team victories throughout round 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8 for Heino in the team in the red jerseys. Team Swedish Swifters, a wonderful job there to seal the deal in second overall, 118 points, and yeah, of course, they were the consistent throughout the season. Movistar E-Team, they managed to hold on to that podium position with only Beth McIver in that front group with 111 points. Cryo RDT, just 1 point from getting onto the podium. 2024 with 108. Likewise with Canyon Esports, who both teams tied on the same points. I Race Like a Girl with 106. Ionian Race Team with 104. Cyrus and the Pros Closet with the team of Courtney Nelson. What a fantastic result they had tonight. 19 points, second overall on the night, and they sealed for 9th place with 98 points. And Beast Mode powered by Rose, the old German team there, in 10th with 78 points. As we take a look at page 2 and see the standings there. Ensured powered by Pedal Power with 68. ATP Racing Venom with 58. Vision Racing with 52. And on joint points with TFC. Turbo there with 48. And Kiss Racing Team with 16. But wow, what a season. What a finale. We have just rounded out season 3 of the ZRL, Dave. I mean, it was fireworks, and that's something that Rasan said at the top of the show. Tonight is going to be fireworks. I'm going to go and get a bowl of popcorn and watch the excitement of the men's race because we're already underway, Dave. I'll throw it to you.
You're the best, Hannah. Thank you. We'll talk to Hannah a little bit later. Rasan, welcome. Yeah, you're right. It was unbelievably fun to watch the women's race, Rasan. I'm expecting the same thing. So everyone, Rasan Bahati, the American champion, joining us now. What a phenomenal women's race, Rasan. I hope the guys can live up to the standard that was set. I expect they will, but I don't know. Rasan, as a former racer yourself, would you have wanted to have watched that? Would that have helped you, or is it better to not know what you've got coming at you because this one's a brute?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the fireworks were definitely going off the entire race. The women definitely set the bar there. A lot of attacks, a lot of going across the big moves that you really don't see in Zwift Racing. I mean, they really put on a great show. And between you and Hannah, you two make it bring the race to life, you know, and it's just a great group of people that get this thing going. So yeah, the men have a lot to look up to, and like that, I'm sure they're going to be out there fired up. And if it was me, I probably would want to watch it. You know, I want to see what they were doing, and just to get me extra fired up, and not to try to outdo them, but just to give everyone another good show.
Okay, good. I'll put Rasan Bahati, then I'm jotting this down, into the knowledge is power category. All right.
Absolutely.
That makes sense to me. So a little bit larger group, some horsepower here. That it's going to change things, I think, Rasan. You know, I know that you... So for those of you that aren't familiar with my colleague, there was a good run here where Rasan was the best sprinter that we had in North America, and even went up and raced in Europe. But one thing was for sure, that all of the American stage races like Cascade or Gila, Rasan, would have one crit day. That wasn't enough, I wouldn't think, for a lot of the riders. These days, criterium is king in the United States. But for a lot of these guys, well, or let me say it this way, Rasan, about half of these guys, the course probably doesn't suit them. What do you do in this part of the race when that's your, like, for you, that would be a day on the Gila Monster, right? You won the criterium the day before, but Gila Monster, you're not planning on winning. How do you help the team here?
Yeah, it all depends on what the objectives and the goals of the team is. Oftentimes a sprinter is going to sacrifice himself earlier in the race. It could be going back to the car to get bottles, or perhaps setting tempo on the flatter section of the race. Oftentimes I just had the leeway to just try to survive, because it was all about big picture for me. And the big picture was US Pro Crit later in the year, or the CSC Invitation, or even the Vegas Crit, so you had this long season that would go until September, October. And so even though, the Gila Monster wasn't a good day for a lot of sprinters, if you're looking at long-term gains, you want to get through that stage. You want to get that 6-7 hours under your belt. So when you go do those 100K crits, it's like racing 60 minutes. You just feel great because you have that endurance. So, I was fortunate enough to have directors like Frankie Andrerio and whatnot that saw big picture for me, and it just made a world of a difference.
Yeah, it really does. Well, the reality of bike racing in 2021, whether it's esports or in real life, is when it goes uphill, it gets hard. And if racers want to make an impact, they're going to do exactly that. So, again, same scenarios we had for the women if you watch that race. If not, let me lay down some of the parameters for you. We're racing for 44 kilometers out here today, back in London's Zwift's London World, Surrey Hills. There's really 5 feature climbs today. It's pretty clear cut. Fox, Leith, Box, Keith, and then back to Fox. We've got points on this climb. On the next climb, which is Leith Hill, Box Hill, you get a power up, but there's no points available there. But Keith has both that power up and points, and we can talk about those points. And I have a feeling we're in with Scott Catanzaro. He just raced the virtual Little 500. I know you're a graduate of Indiana. Yeah, they had a virtual event, and he won it this weekend, but it was nothing like what he's in the middle of right now. A whole nother level of racing here, and they're going to be pushing the tempo. That's going to be Ollie Jones and Michael Knudsen. Nice to see the Danish rider Knudsen back from the PO Auto team, the virtual Everesting record holder. He's a Danish rider, a former police officer, works with kids now. And IDD kids, and is just an outstanding human being. Love to see. Look at this, gaps already, Rasan.
Yeah, that's going to be normal. I mean, soon as, like you said earlier, soon as the roads start going uphill, gaps are going to open up, and they're not going slow. Ben Ruth at the front doing 5.8 watts per kilo right now, so he's leading the charge with Ollie Jones. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one, and I reckon they could finish, I don't know, sub 1 hour, maybe just under an hour, given the speed that they're already going on the climbs.
I think you're exactly right, to tell you the truth. That using that 1 hour mark is fair. That's a long time to be in esports, for sure, as the intensity is so high out here. Spencer Segerbrook is a rider that has been coming on strong, seeing his name popping up here. But look at this. I mean, if you can't make 6 watts plus per kilo, not even part of the conversation right now. That's pretty high level here.
Yeah, and they're not even 4 kilometers in. So for the ones that are coming off the back right now, it's going to make for a very long day. They're either going to sacrifice themselves and give up and leave their team kind of high and dry, or just try to hang in there and get some points if they can. But yeah, if you're getting off the back in the first 4K, it's going to be a tough one. You guys touched on it earlier, actually, with Hannah in the women's race. It was important to get a good warm up. I thought that was very key that you guys are talking about that. Having a good warm up when you're right on a climb, just 3Ks in, is like probably more important than anything you can do, including the hydration and other things you talked about. So yeah, I think that may be key. We maybe send some people off the back who didn't take that warm up too seriously.
Yeah, that is absolutely agree there. As we take a look at this front group, now there's a lot of guys keeping their head above water. There's Matthias de Roos, who has been on the podium already this year on the BZR Sports Solid team. They're one of the teams, Rasan, that has really come on strong here in season 3. Like a good example there, Canyon has always been one of the top teams. Saris, the Pros Closet, they've been perennial top 3s in our league. But we're starting to see new teams. Belgian Sports Solid or BZR Sports Solid is one. Next is another that has really started to make their mark. Beast Mode. It's been fun to watch that for sure. These guys are high-tailing it right now. So remembering, let's talk about the points, as I know not everyone was able to watch the women's race out here as well. As this sprint has 15 points for the first rider over the line. It looks like Michael Knudsen wants to make sure that it's him. They're going to come for him here. Can Knudsen hold on? This is one of the strongest men on planet Earth today, and it looks like Stefan Kirkmeyer is going to try. Ollie Jones, though, will punch through and pick up maximum bonification there. Boy, a who's who once again. Very dangerous moment here as we start worrying about a split here. But Rasan, let me run through the points really quickly. 15 for Jones, Kirkmeyer 12, Vyasen 10, Ikeda for 8, Mel. Boy, these are the big names, Rasan. I'm really excited to jump in and get your analysis here. Vidar Mel for 6. Michael Knudsen, who we saw there, ends up holding on for 5. It's going to be Jim Van Ruth for 4. Takasugi for 3, Emmerich 2, Van Elst 1. Boy, when you see that kind of quality on the front, Rasan, if you're in a second group, you've got to get the guys motivated to chase this back right now, don't you?
Yeah, you just have to go ahead. You know what? Dave, go ahead and run over the team points real quick, and we'll go over that sprint.
Good. Thank you, Rasan. Good job there. Canyon Esports with 25 points. So you can see we just jumped right into this race, but we will have a chance to look at how things stand right now, because Canyon is obviously looking to pick up a big day of racing and seal out the season. Kirkmeyer E-Racing with 12. Zwift Warriors, the team out of Japan, with 11. Movistar E-Team 6. Pio Auto 5. World Elite Zwifters 4. Beast Mode 2. And BZR Sports Solid. They're picking up the 8th place as far as team play. Only 8 of the teams were able to score points out there. So, all right, distributing the points right there. We're going to take a look at a replay then and see how things came across that first sprint line on Fox Hill, as our KOM points are going to be critical when we're done scoring this race. As you saw, we take all of the team points. Ollie Jones adding some for Canyon, but Lionel Viasen picking up some more, so Canyon off to a very good start here. Well, do things ever settle down on a day like today, Rasan?
It's not looking like it will. You know, they're going pretty full gas. It's nice to see 2018 Zwift Academy finalist Ollie Jones up there. I would say he's one of the he's a Zwift racing veteran by now. It was good to get to know him a little bit over in Cape Town at the Dimension Data training camp, winter training camp, and just seeing how powerful he is. I know that he's one of the most legit racers on the Zwift platform, so him winning that sprint there is not a surprise. But again, full gas. They're only 8 kilometers in, and they haven't let up yet.
Yeah, that Canyon team, Lionel Viasen, we've mentioned, and Ollie Jones has already made his mark out here. We talked about Spencer Segelbrook as well. And it speaks to how active they are, always near the front of the race. Alex West out of New Zealand and the Dutch rider Antoinette Noppen make up that team. This is Movistar and Pim van Diemen that we're looking at here. He moved over at Movistar, the World Tour team, was able to find some top talent. He was on Dutch Racing, and that was a tough one for them to lose a rider of this quality as he steps right in. We were talking about that heart rate of Catherine Curie, Rasan, you know, as they were hitting the bottom of Fox for the final time. Her heart rate was under 140 beats per minute. It is absolutely amazing. Yeah, when you look at the wattage that these riders are making, to see the heart rate that low really speaks to a world-class cardiovascular system.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I also love seeing that the World Tour teams are trying their hand in Zwift Racing esports. And I love the fact that riders have been transferred around. I think that's only going to boost the quality of the racing out here.
Agreed.
There's tons of the fields are stacked, and so when these World Tour teams are starting to take this a little bit more seriously and wanting the riders like the Segelbrooks and the Ollie Jones and whatnot, I think it's going to make this really robust in the near future. You're going to see more and more teams involved in Zwift racing.
Yeah, it's really good points, Rasan. We were talking about how parity is important, right? To have every race being competitive, and you never know who's going to win. Well, I also like the fact that in the big picture, having a free agent market and riders being able to move around to teams that require their services, and certainly there's a lot of interesting elements to that. Taking a look at the gap starting to open up now. So this is that moment, Rasan, where they start turning the screws, and any bike racer, I tell you what, maybe the worst pace in the world to be is 40 or 50 riders back in the group when you realize that they're hitting out at another level on the front, because you know that there's going to be a little bit of a ripple effect before you can start making your move back there. But the race is on. Ollie Jones is going to make this a miserable trip up Leith Hill for quite a few riders.
Yeah, when you're at the back of that accordion, and it's, specifically when you get over the top of the climb and you're still cresting the climb and the front of the group is already going upwards 50, 60, 70 Ks an hour, and you're doing like 25 K an hour, yeah, you're going to put yourself in a hurt locker. If you watch the women's race, you saw Curry and Larson pull off some incredible moves of going across to a group that was, I don't know, was it 18 seconds, Dave, somewhere in there?
Yeah,
You don't see that too often, you know? I think you'll find that hard to do in the men's race. I was also shocked that actually in the women's race that the front group didn't attack once those two riders came over the top. And that just showed me that maybe they were all on the rivet, you know, because that would have been a perfect time to really put the two who just came across back in the hurt locker. So it'd be interesting to see if the men's field actually roll out and have the same type of scenario where a group kind of established and then a few riders from the back leapfrog to the front.
I couldn't agree more, Rasan. I have a feeling that a lot of the women in that race would agree with you as well. And if they could, they would. But everyone was at their limit. Yeah, so Johannes Reckenauer is the rider moving up to the front. One of the stars on Kirkmeyer E-Racing team. This is a day that they've been looking forward to. Former World Tour rider Daniel Turek up there. Jaden Yeager. There's a guy you might have even raced with out of Wisconsin on the Restart Racing team. Yeah, that's a name you know, isn't it? It's great to see him in the mix here, as Lionel Viasen is up there now as well. This group is going to be significantly smaller by the time we're done with this climb. I have a feeling a few riders are going to have a lot of trouble holding on out here. This is Jimmy Bowden that we're looking at. Keep fighting. Jimmy's just about to get back into the group, wearing that Yorkshire cap there. Quite stylish.
Yeah, he's in a really bad spot right now. His heart rate is going up 177, 176, and he's just at about 300 watts. So if he doesn't get on the wheel, I think his day may be over. I know they get a little downhill coming up right here, but yeah, he's going to have to push hard. But it's hard to go hard when you're already going hard. So what do you say, Dave? Scrape the bottom of the barrel? He's definitely have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get in there.
You know, and unfortunately, Rasan, with the dynamics and the gameplay in Zwift, if you're not in that group when they go over the top of the climb, when they start picking up speed, it is just absurdly hard to try to rejoin. Here, it really does. Brian Duffy Jr. has been one of the breakthrough riders of the season without any doubt. Now, Next came out of the community, but they were always at the level of Premier. And Brian Duffy Jr. has been on the podium multiple times. As a matter of fact, I mean, he is one of the legitimate quality riders that we've got in the ZRL right now. Going to be watching for him. Interesting to see if today will suit him, and that is the Next rider, that green and black jersey. I like their jersey as well. Really stands out there. And he's doing about as good a job as you can of being efficient, Rasan.
Hey, you know me from racing. It's all about efficient.
I was just going to say, you read your book.
Yeah, he must have read the book, because I remember going to my first Philly race, and I was in line to get some water, and I saw I forget his name now. Bobby Julich, and I said, "Hey, Bobby, big fan. You don't know me, but first Philly race." And I said, "Any advice you can give a young kid?" He said, "It's not about how many pedal strokes you take. It's about how many you don't take." And that resonated right away. I didn't have to study. It didn't go over my head. It resonated right away. And I literally stuck with that for my entire career. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to be the first one across the line. So I did what I had to do to save every bullet that I had so I can be the fastest one in the final sprint. And speaking of which, we usually talk about Freddie Ovid a lot during the race. We haven't mentioned his name once today, so he may be holding himself for some big fireworks towards the end of the race.
But that's not what other riders want to hear, Rasan, that Ovid is adding patience into, because, yeah, I saw he was up there on the last climb, but you're right. We're going to hear a lot more about Freddie Ovid. I love your Bobby Julich story, though. It sounds like How to Coast Your Way into the World Tour by Bobby Julich.
Yeah, there you go.
You're right. No, but I get the point that's being made, and that it's like, hey, don't do any more work than you have to. Certainly, we've said that before out here, Rasan, about helping everybody else finish what they've got on their plate before you start on yours is kind of the bike racing motto of that's how you do it. And especially for a sprinter. But out here today, we've settled things down a little bit here in this group. 44K of racing. They've made one selection. Certainly another is coming. But right now, little bit of calm in the group, I'd say.
Yeah, this is definitely where you take a couple deep breaths, drink some water, realize that you're in the main group. Now you got to figure out what you're going to do to stay in the main group, for those that are just hanging on. And then others, they're just probably in zone 3 and can't wait for the next climb.
Would it worry you at all if you saw that many Canyon riders up near the front, Rasan? In this scenario, you can see it looks like they've got 4 of their 5 riders sitting up in the top 10. Does that tell you that they're planning anything?
Oh yeah, when they're riding as a team, as a unit towards the front of the race, you definitely know that they have a strategy.
McGoldrick has been on a run in real life, absolutely phenomenal. Let's see if that will translate into an esports success today. But McGoldrick, in all honesty, has clearly been doing his work. A lot of people have been talking about Connor's potential. Looks to be quite amazing. As you can see, he's making big watts out here, and we really just changed gears as well as we move into a new phase. They are really starting to press. You can see Lenny Tugel's up there, one of the strongest riders coming out of the community, the Belgian on BZR Sports Solid. There's another Belgian on the Canyon team, Lionel Viassen, moving up. So yeah, absolutely Canyon. As I was asking Rasan, Canyon answered the question for me, as they have decided to move into crush mode. Rasan, look at this. Here we go.
This is one of the toughest parts of the climb right here too. This is a very, very steep, I think around 11% right here. 15, I knew it was steep. I remember racing this myself, being like, oh my God, this is never going to be over. So yeah, they definitely have a strategy here, stretching out the legs. I'm sure we're going to lose a few riders here, but who knows? Let's see what happens over the top of this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Canyon, you probably are well aware of what Hino has done, and even not being aware of that, you know what your team can do and the resources that you have. And then all you need is a little bit of help, like Takato Ikeda here, who's coming through the Japanese Warrior or Zwift Warrior cycling out of Japan. And another very exciting rider is Takato Ikeda there on the front. Freddie Ovitt, well, you made that call, Rasan. And Freddie Ovitt is moving up to the front here. All right, well, we've reached a moment of this race. Yeah.
The splits are already happening. Yep.
Yeah, so Freddie Ovitt, as you said, Rasan, it was only a matter of time until his impact was felt, and that moment is right now. Let's see who can survive out here.
Yeah, this is one of the toughest parts of the course right here. It's one of the most long and sustained climbs, steep in the beginning, plateaus, kind of dips, and then goes back up again. So once again, if you're at the back of this, at the back of the accordion, you're going to be in a world of trouble. And you can see by the images here, how the group is starting to just break up. And so I don't know, maybe after the next climb, we'll be down to a very select group, and the race will go on from there, Dave.
Yeah, not all that dissimilar to our women's race, and I suppose it really speaks to the cream rising to the top. There's only so many riders that can make this front group. I mean, look at these numbers. It's popping red all over the place. Kirchmeier is moving up into 11 watts per kilo. Stefan Kirchmeier out of Austria has got that arch. The horse can smell the barn now and is absolutely galloping. They're not going to bring back Stefan here, so he's going to pick up 15 points on Leith Hill, and the rest of the points will be distributed through this group. It's 12 for second, 10 for third, 8 for fourth, 6, 5, and down. So we'll take a look at how those points score, but it's going to be Movistar's Pim van Diemen there, the Dutch rider coming through for second. Kirchmeier 15, Van Diemen 12, Anders Voldegger for Pio Otto up there for 10, Viassen 8, Ovitt 6, Davies 5, Ikeda for 4, Tugels 3, Duffy Jr. 2, Ollie Jones 1. Okay, Rasan, here we go. Just like the women's race, these are the riders of note. Let's see how their teams are all doing with the points, as this one is going to go to a boil right now. As Canyon with 34, Kirchmeier 27, Movistar 18, Pio Otto Ceramic Speed with 15, Zwift Warrior Cycling at 15, Legion of LA 6, BRT 5, World Elite Zwifters 4, BZR Sports Solid 4 as well, and then 2 for Beast Mode. It's on like Donkey Kong at this point in the race. As Rasan, it's a group of 11 riders. This is real. So the course has such an impact on the way that the race plays out. And I think that only the strong survive. Well, there's one
Yeah.
of the strong, Stefan Kirkmeyer. It's pretty straight ahead out here. You either got it or you don't. Like you said, Rasan, when you're hot, you're hot, right? I
And
mean,
when you're
isn't that
not,
what's going
you're
on right
not.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. When a climb like this or a course like this, it's not rocket science what's going to happen, right? It's just going to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen or on which climb. So very different from a flat race or something that's semi-punchy. This is going to happen on the bigger climbs when the speed is high, and you have 11 riders in the front. Look like Canyon has 2, so that's pretty good for Canyon. We talked about them being at the front of this climb, and so 10 riders are all from different teams, and then Canyon has a teammate, so has 2 in the front. And then the ride-ons, Stefan Kirkmeyer, 243 ride-ons. Let me see if I can give him another one. He's got the love ride-on. Oh, no, that's 143. All right, he's well beyond the love ride-on. But just chilling, 105 watts. His heart rate's only 158, so yeah, he's doing a great job. So they're on the downhill here, and I can't wait till they get back on the uphill to see exactly what type of fireworks will happen and how Canyon SRAM actually going to use their tactics, having 2 people in this lead group.
Well, Rasan, I think I'm with you. This is what's so great about this race is this is a brief moment. I wanted to quickly talk about where we're at for the season because it is very, very close. We had to jump right in with the men's race, so we didn't get to give you all of our production. But Canyon Esports has 104 points right now. BZR Sports Solid is only 1 point behind them. So, that being said, whichever of those 2 teams gets the better of each other out here almost assuredly wins Season 3. BCR Sports Solid is the team of Lenny Tugels there. So it's going to be, once we start getting into some more analysis, it's going to be very interesting. Now, Kirkmeyer's got 2 riders. You can see that yellow and black jersey.
Yeah, I was going to make that.
Yeah, so and they are sitting in 9th place right now. So they could move up into the top 5, even top 4. It's possible they could find the top 3. I don't see them getting into the top 2, as it looks like we squared that off as Canyon BZR, Rasan. But there's some teams.
It actually looks like there's 4 teams out there with teammates and not just Canyon. So we'll get the report on that. It looks like there's 4 teams out there that each have a teammate each. And so that's going to make for a very interesting race if I'm seeing things right here live on the screen.
Yeah, just to finish that up, it's Callis in 3rd, Saris the Pros Closet 4th, and Next Esport is tied. There's 3 teams. Next, Movistar, and PO Auto are all tied for 5th, 6th, and 7th there. So it's incredibly, incredibly competitive out here. But the 2 teams that are heads above the rest, and there you go, taking a look at Canyon Esports there and BZR Sports Solid. So that gives you a quick look for where we're at coming into the final race of Season 3. And I apologize that we didn't show this earlier, but we wanted to jump right in and get the race coverage underway, which I know is why you're tuning in out there. And I want to say, Rasan, a special thank you to all of our great fans that we've had through the first 3 seasons of the Zwift Racing League. It's been a tremendous group of folks that put some wind in our sails every Tuesday, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, you definitely it's encouraging to know that people are looking forward to watching these events and cheering for their favorite virtual riders. And then having yourself, having Hannah, and of course we're missing Matt this week because he's at the Giro, but I've watched from afar, and it's always entertaining to watch and to listen and to learn all about esports and what Zwift Racing is all about.
Well, and it's awesome having you as well, Rasan. I mean, you bring such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's nice having you as part of the Zwift family. So let's jump right in now to our front group of 13 here. Unlike the women's race, and Rasan, I'm looking here, I don't know that anybody's going to rejoin. I know I said that twice during our women's race as well and was proved wrong both times, but I don't think now it's a 15-second gap. Okay, well, and there's some big names in that chase group. I'm going to go ahead and just change my call because it's not impossible that Shell Power,
definitely
Daniel
not
Turek,
impossible. We saw that in the women's race, absolutely. But
and
I
those are
would
some
say,
big names.
given that this front group has 3 teams with an additional rider, you would suspect or hope that they would sacrifice someone to keep the pace high. The same way we watch, the Giro, and you see the teams on the front keeping the pace high. I would suspect that you would see that. Now, if they start to play around, it may not happen, and then people can come across. So we'll have to wait and see.
So I'm really looking at this through the lens, Rasan, of this season overall. And what's really important here is Mateus de Roos is also in this front group, the second of the BZR Sport Solid riders, which really puts them on even terms. Right now, things are pretty static between Canyon and BZR Sport Solid in this front group. And you start looking at that second group, right? And which team would benefit more if that catch were made by the second group? And right, and that's what makes this dynamic of racing so interesting, right? There's some riders here that wouldn't mind if that second group caught, and there's other riders that are hell-bent for leather to not let that happen. And it's a battle royale, Rasan. It's exactly what we were looking for as we hit the midpoint of this race.
Yeah, that's me 100%. I found myself oftentimes in smaller splits. I'm like, I just want to be back in the field, so I hope the field catches us. The more people in the field, the more I can hide, the more energy I save, the more energy I have for the sprint. So I totally understand that scenario.
Yeah, you want to be a shadow, right?
Yeah, exactly. I also think this is a good example of for the teams that have directors and the teams that don't have directors. If you have a director, they can make those calls on the fly. Right now, when you're head down, going all out, it's hard to figure out where the points are, who's in the group, what's the gap, and all this stuff. So having a director, communication will be huge if you had that in your back pocket.
You know what tells me everything I need to know exactly, Rasan, is that Spencer Segabrook here, the Canyon rider in the red and purple, he's not taking polls. He's sitting on this group, which tells me that Canyon has no interest in bringing, and you can see why, right? You bring the entire PO Auto team up there. It's not ideal for Canyon so Spencer gets to sit on this group for the rest of the race. But boy, that gap is not large. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to regroup here. We're going to reshuffle a little bit.
Yep. Absolutely. It's definitely coming back together. So they start to play around a little bit in front, but it looks like it's going to come back together right at the base of a climb. It's only at 5 seconds, so they're definitely going to bridge here. Even if the second group just stopped right here, I'm sure the Canyon rider would just jump across because he's been sitting on.
There you go.
So, there it is, all back together.
Yeah, great job, Rasan. You nailed it. And that is what you call welding the group. That's Tim Johnson's line from years ago, Rasan. But welding the group back together, that's exactly what we just witnessed. Great job by our production crew today. Fantastic work here as we're getting a really good look here at this now. The group is doubled in size. And so now the teams have to start taking some inventory. But Rasan, my question to you then would be this at this point. We start the next climb. You'd expect the riders that made it in the first group on the last climb to do the same thing again. There's always going to be some slight changes there, but I wouldn't anticipate. I mean, a lot of times after these two groups rejoin, we just split them right back up again, pretty much with the same riders.
Yeah, I know it's easier said than done, but if I was one of those riders in the back group and I was just holding on just to make it to the front group of this front group of 22 riders, I would try to get to the front of that group and just set this false pace and try to recover, because you're going to be suffering anyway in the back. Why not go to the front, try to set a pace that you can hold, and perhaps maybe the group just sits behind you and gives yourself a better chance. But if you just sit in the back and you're suffering already on the rivet and they're going to go really fast, you're going to be off the back again. So I know it's easier said than done, but I've tried that scenario and it's worked quite a few times.
I couldn't agree more. Sit at the back, you're just waiting for the executioner to come. Go to the front, and you might be able to change the outcome a little bit, kind of rewrite the script a little bit. Let's see what we got here now, Rasan, as it looks like it's starting to get active. That's going to be Kirkmeyer again. Johannes Reckenauer is the rider again. If you can't make more than 6 watts per kilo, you have no business being anywhere near the front of this group, as heavy hitters only need apply right now. That's going to be Ollie Jones. He's been a star out here today. Ollie Jones is a rider that deserves to catch a break in this league. 100%. I'm a fan of Ollie Jones. That's going to be Turek. So he's one of the big names that was in the second group, Rasan, a former World Tour rider, Daniel Turek here, that we're all of a sudden next is back in the mix. Brian Duffy Jr., Turek, they're on the front, hitting hard.
Yep, that's exactly what I mean. Just take that momentum and just carry it all the way to the front and set a tempo that's good for you. And right now, everyone's just holding his will because in their head, he's doing the brunt of the work. So it's almost like this psychological back and forth, So he's in a zone that he can handle. The group thinks he's doing all the work, but in fact, he's probably up there recovering, even though he's on the front, because he was just off the back and could have very well been off the back again if the group decided to go at it. But really, really good tactics and wherewithal by Turek.
I don't know that we'll ever find a more competitive course that brings out better racing from our ZRL fields than Surrey Hills. I mean, this is just amazing terrain to race on here as we pick up again. This is the front group, which really doubled in size in the last 5 minutes here as that chase was able to make the catch, something that has really been the theme of this day. You're not out of it until you're completely out of it. That's going to be Freddie Ovett moving up onto the wheel of Turek. This has got to have alarm bells ringing all over the shop.
Oh, yeah. You can't let Freddie Ovett go off the front. And I think he's maybe just testing his legs a little bit, and cause a reaction. So 3 guys, really small split, it looked like about a second. But I want to see if he goes over the top. That's what I would really love to see, him going over the top and really stretch this fill out, make another selection so we can have this race going full noise for the last, I don't know, what is it, 20K to go almost?
Exactly. Just coming up on 20K racing remaining. And again, I mean, I don't know that there's a racer that brings more excitement to the ZRL than Freddie Ovett. And here's a man who's just on the grind as Johannes Reckenauer, the rider that we're looking at right now, but certainly an impact player out here when you talk about Reckenauer, as Johannes is one of these guys that week in, week out, very similar to Lionel Viasen, to tell you the truth. He's one of the guys, Rasan, that will score massive points. The question becomes, will it be enough the way things are stacking up out here? And also, it's really important to remember that you've got 2 teams here. Canyon, who at the end of season 2 found themselves in a similar situation, being in a Mortal Kombat style battle for the win here and the overall in season 3. And again, that's BZR Sports Solid that we're talking about. And it looks like Howell Davies, the Welsh rider, is attacking. All right, great to see that Welsh flag flying, Rasan.
Well, he's got home court advantage, that's for sure. Oh, was that a sprint?
Yeah, it was. No sprint points power up there. Yeah, that is obviously
just as
a sprint
important.
arch. Yeah, right. You never know, randomly distributing. We haven't talked about that yet during the men's race, Rasan. The feather, the van, and the helmet. So the feather, 10% less weight for 15 seconds. The helmet basically makes you 25% more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. And the van, which gives you a 50% increase in the draft effect that you're feeling for 30 seconds. I got to think today's all about the feather.
I wonder if Davis thought that was a sprint point, because why would you need to, use that effort to go through the banner if you're just going to get a power up? It's kind of interesting.
Well, and I would agree, and you could certainly see how that would happen. Not making excuses for anyone, but that's the kind of thing that I do myself. So I could certainly understand how that could happen to someone else. But maybe this is an attack. He's still rolling it. He's
still
all
rolling,
in.
yeah.
I'm going to go with no. I think that he's trying to separate. That was more impacting the race. I don't think he thought he was getting points.
Yeah, it seems that way now that he's on the attack again, almost a second off the front. So he's moving pretty good.
So he's texting someone to let him know that he knew. Yeah.
He's texting us. No, I was doing that on purpose. Don't worry about it.
Well, we're lucky that through our colleague Hannah Walker, we have some Welsh inside knowledge, and that's how I know to pronounce Howell's name correctly, as the Welsh are outstandingly an interesting group for sure. And I tell you what, I'm sure through your Zwift time you've met Geraint Thomas, and Welsh cycling is awesome. I mean, they have really, really picked up on the health benefits, the sporting benefits, and Wales. It's not just rugby in Wales anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, I tell everybody all the time, the bike transcends your life no matter where you come from. So the more people we can get on bikes in the real world, virtually, doesn't matter. It makes for a better place for everyone. There are so many benefits and there's so many cool things you can do by the bike. I mean, just look at us
Isn't
three
that
here.
true?
You know, the bike has taken us so many places that I think other things wouldn't have taken us. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that that the Welsh community is thriving with cycling, and hopefully it just boils over to other areas of the UK.
I agree wholeheartedly, Rasan. As we see some riders taking a super tuck here, that is a great point how not only cycling, but even Zwift has helped really connect us, especially during the tough times over this last year. And I tell you, as we wrap up season 3 of ZRL, it's going to be a bummer saying goodbye to you and Hannah and Matt, as this has been really a touchstone for a lot of us. So again, exciting announcements coming. So don't you worry out there, folks. We'll have plenty more ZRL racing in the future. But before I get too far in front of my skis, let's take a look, as it looks like Turek now in a little bit of trouble. This one just goes back and forth out here. And I think it's fair to say, Rasan, this is the kind of day that for a lot of these riders, it was all going great until it wasn't.
yeah, it's the on off, and it's been more on definitely than off. And even when you're off, they're going uphill, so it's not a lot of break, not a lot of time and places to sit up and text like some, but it has been a very, very fast race at this point.
When you look at it, Daniel Turek 10 minutes ago was in a chase group that was sitting 15 seconds back. He did a lot of the work to make that chase. He then caught the group, went to the front. I think he was trying to launch his teammate, Duffy Jr., to tell you the truth. That probably was his play. He's still in the points where he is right now. We scored this 30 deep, although he's not going to be able to contest anymore. We have Keith Hill points coming up as we make our way through the Surrey Hills, and it looks like Pim van Diemen, the Dutch rider on Movistar, has hit out. So, well, it's an interesting tempo at the front. Individual riders now trying to make their mark. Sort of hard to tell, Rasan, at this point in the race exactly what the strategies are, but just keeping it fast, keeping it aggressive is Movistar.
Yeah, and I think with 15.6 kilometers to go, that's for some riders, they know that they can time trial that amount of distance, right? So some will wait for the 5K and under, 10K and under. I think maybe perhaps he feels, hey, I know I have 15K in me where I can go full noise and hold, 6 watts per kilo for the next 20, 25 minutes. So, all right, maybe not that long, maybe more like 15 minutes. We'll see.
Ahead, FTP, right? I mean, a 20-minute power test is basically what you've got ahead of you. It's not quite that pure, is it? But, these riders have a pretty good idea what they can do out here. Yeah. And it becomes now, right, using your head, Rasan, because at this moment, if I'm Pim van Diemen, I'm thinking, what is the purpose? So that's what a director maybe would say. What are you doing right now? What is the impact you're hoping to have with this move? Now, if it is trying to set up a teammate for a counterattack, or it's a solo attack in and of itself. But I really think it's fair to say, Rasan, if you don't, it's like a baseball player. If you don't know what your next move is going to be, you're in trouble. And bike racing, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you might want to stop.
Yeah. And speaking of not stopping, Turek is still coming across. He hasn't given up yet. And I think he just may connect back to the back of the group before the top of this climb. When we get this camera.
That's World Tour wants. That's a World Tour guy.
Yeah, that's not giving up.
This would be the perfect time to hit him with 25 ride-ons. Just let it rain. Thumbs on it.
See if I can get him a ride on as well.
There you go. Thanks, Rasan. And once Rasan activates his network, the ride-ons don't quit. I've noticed. They just keep coming down. He is going to rejoin the group here, Daniel Turek, we're talking about. Yeah, that was the theme of the day, Rasan. Never give up. We've seen this in the women's race multiple times. I mean, our women's race winner was dropped twice during the race. Wow. Had to fight back. Really speaks to the sport, that's for sure. If you were to talk with a young person, Rasan, the number is actually starting to pick up a little bit of a draft, and everything changes right now. That's a beautiful thing. And I think every kid out there, Rasan, when you're bringing them into the sport, the first thing that you really want them to understand is never giving up is where we start with cycling. And if you can get that, you'll eventually become what you want to be with this sport. But the first thing is just don't quit.
Don't quit. Don't quit. That was one of the things, actually. I didn't have the most excellent job or time with Jonathan Valder's team, but that was one thing that he really instilled, was like, no matter what the circumstances are, just keep pedaling. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, you can't pedal anymore, you keep pedaling. And that was one of the things I did learn from being on that squad, was just never ever give up, just keep going. And sometimes, just like Turek, you come right back. You think you're out of it and you're right back in it.
And look at this, he's going to go by another rider who's going to be in that same situation here. So all right. Well, I know that I can hear our production crew and Hannah cheering for Daniel Turek right now. I love that. And that's what Zwift is all about. So you can see riders are getting their tickets punched, but one man will stand up. He will be the wind that shakes the barley out here, as this is Daniel Turek continuing to fight, will not give up, personifying what ZRL is all about. Rasan, one of my favorite stories that you told, I think I heard it a couple of years ago, was talking about being, I think it was Canada, where you were racing in the rain and it was cold and sleeting, and you went back to the team car and mentioned that your face was really hurting. And the team director said, don't care, you don't pedal with your face, get back out there.
It's exactly what he said, and 2 hours later, I won the stage. So yeah, it's
awesome.
very true. You don't pedal with your face, and yeah, that was a good lesson for me of not giving up and not quitting.
Because at that point, that's the moral of the story here, is you wanted to quit, and it wasn't necessarily your face. You just wanted out. That was going to be your excuse, right?
Yeah, and that was the easy way out.
Yeah, I love that story, Rasan. Yeah, you motivate so many. I love it for folks that are watching right now, as we're watching Pim van Diemen here fighting. Definitely check out.
Gap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be tough now, as they're going to have a hard time bringing him back. This guy is quietly, this is how you steal a bike race. You just ride off the front quietly, let the other people look at each other, and all of a sudden, he's almost at 20 seconds up, and we're down to 13K. Rasan, I'm not so naive to think that a lot of things can't happen here, but a very impressive ride from Pim van Diemen of Movistar. Solo.
Yeah, he showed his hand a little bit 2Ks ago. At 15.5K to go, he showed his hand, and we were talking about how he could do the last 15K on his own. And so he's been out there for about 2K, which probably seems like a long time to him. But he still has a long way to go, and getting up to 20 seconds, it doesn't seem like anyone in the field is motivated to bring him back. Ollie Jones is working his way back towards the front, but I don't know. They're not going hard enough to bring him back right now. And maybe, I don't know, Dave, if you have the standings, is he in the runnings to even have like a top 3 or top 5? Does he change anything for the leaders of the overall series? So maybe they're happy with him off the front.
Well, it's interesting when you very, very good point. This is not a Canyon problem or a BZR problem, if that's what you're referring to, and I think you are.
Correct.
And I absolutely right there. So, yeah, they don't need to win the bike race today. That's a great point, Rasan. Thanks for making that, because they are not the ones that have to chase him back. They, as a matter of fact, this can go, and it really won't affect their day. There's going to be some individual riders, like the team I think that would be the most upset by this would maybe be PO Auto Ceramic Speed. They aren't going to win the season, so they really want to win today's race. This is not a stage race. I heard people calling this the Queen stage. Well, it's a little different. These are individual days of racing in a season of 8 races. Well, Pim van Diemen might have just cracked the code on exactly what Rasan is talking about here, as he has basically quietly slipped through and is now rolling, but it's coming down, Rasan, and I think just the gravity, the sprint here, as there are points here on Keith Hill, so that might unfortunately be his undoing, as they've hit another level back here. And BZR's got to be worried. They've got Tugels, but they don't have Darus, the other rider that they need up here to match Canyon man for man. Big moment, Rasan.
Oh yeah, huge moment. And so everyone's in the super tuck right now, getting those legs back under them with the free watts that basically they're getting right now. Yeah, and it came all the way back down to under 2 seconds. So it looks like it will be back together with a select group of riders, maybe 10, it seems, that are in that front group. And he has been overtaken right now with the super tuck by Tugels, it looks like. And Ovet's there. Anderson's there, DeRose. Man, you know all these names very nice. I'm studying the way they roll off your tongue. I can definitely pronounce Bruce.
Bruce Bird is where you start in the names, right? And then at the very end, let me take you to Norway. You're going to really enjoy some letters that you've never even seen before, Rasan, or at least I had.
Sure,
yeah. So hey, I got to say at this moment now, Freddie Ovid is going to be really tough to beat, Rasan. He's in good position here as a wild card. Again, Legion of LA is not a team that will be threatening to BZR or to Canyon, but Freddie Ovid is a wattage cottage, one of the most talented riders on planet Earth today. As you take a look at the Australian here with the perfect hair as well. So looking extremely good is Freddie Ovid, and I have to say he's my man to beat out of this group, and that's a lot of the dynamics, Rasan, that you were talking about, as you've got to think that, well, and Anders Foldager, and I don't think Michael Knudsen is in this group, but Foldager is, and he's a rider that was on the podium at the World Championship, so he's a rider that I think might be racing for his own results here today as well. So there's so many ways to look at this one. There's Freddie Ovid right in the middle of your screen. Freddie looks incredibly comfortable, going to take on a little bit of sugar here for the finale. Perfect timing here. Heart rate at 138. Incredibly comfortable is Freddie Ovid. So he's locked and loaded, ready for a big finale. And we are not that far off. We go inside of 10K to go. That little split might come back together here as we saw earlier. And it looks like it is right in front of our eyes, Rasan.
Yeah, it looks like a reshuffle right here. They kind of played the cards a little bit to see what was going on in the race. And the guys in the back just have to go full noise to make sure they catch up to the front group, which they did. So less than 10K to go. Freddie's taking on some sugar. He's got his Hollywood hair and the fan going on. He might have a whole production there shooting him. But yeah, he looks really good. Actually, this whole front group looks pretty good. And it's the same usual suspects that's been on every single climb since we started this race. So I'm suspecting a nice probably 3-up, 4-up sprint in the finale.
I'd sign off on that all day long, Rasan. I want to point out that right now in Tokyo, it is about 5:30 in the morning. Tomorrow's morning for us, Rasan. So Takato Ikeda gets and everyone on the Zwift Warriors gets a special shout out from us at Zwift for the efforts that they have made. They go above and beyond to race in the ZRL. And Ikeda, I know people would be ecstatic to see him get a win out here. A people's champion, Rasan, without any doubt. It reminds me of like when Corey Williams won San Dimas, right? And I mean, all his people are there. Well, this guy, Takato Ikeda, has a lot of fans in the ZRL world. So there's that Japanese flag right in the middle. Good luck today, Takato.
Takato Ikeda. That's an amazing story, because to see that so many people across the world are racing at one single time, you saying, it's the next day at 5 a.m. it's pretty incredible. And what a commitment. And that just goes to show you that people love this stuff, and they can't get enough of it. So hats off to him and all his supporters and everyone else from around the world that's racing right now.
Yeah, it's worth noting as we have just a moment here at 8K to go, Rasan, how much these riders do to be a part of the ZRL. Well, the dual verification and, it's for transparency, and it's because we want to keep this legit and on the up and up. But to do that requires a really solid commitment from the athletes themselves. A lot of them had to, pretty much learn about some new technologies on how to set up webcams and all of that stuff. So we really do thank them for making those efforts as well. 7.5. Yeah. I mean, Rasan, you can relate. That's for sure. This group now, it's such an interesting feeling when you've made the selection. And there's no doubt that this is what I would call the ultimate selection that your winners group will come out of, right? Which it's going to be a small group. Shell Power, he won in Richmond. Very strong rider, the Belgian, right in the middle of your screen. I mean, there's not a rider on our screen that you don't look at right now and say, this rider has a shot out here today. Some of them clearly come in with credentials, Rasan, like Freddie Ovitt, where certainly he's got to be a rider to watch.
Yeah, this is the point in the race where each rider in this group is going through different scenarios in their head. Or if you're like me, it's only one scenario, be second out of the corner or third out of the corner, and then sprint. But this is a little different than a crit. So they have to be going through a lot of different scenarios. So when it happens, or as you see it developing, you can make a reaction without being too late to the party. So hopefully, they're going through these scenarios. If someone attacks early, what do you do? If one person attacks, what do you do? If two people go on the left, it's so many different ways that you can look at it. So this is probably a point where they're just all going through these scenarios and trying to figure out how they're going to post up for the win and have a little bit of fun with that.
Let's talk about some of the names that you're seeing here. Johannes Reckenauer, Leonard Tugels, Ollie Jones, Anders Foldager, Pim van Diemen, Bjorn Andersen, Matthias de Roos. These are the names. Connor McGoldrick is, again, the insured presented by Pedal Power. That might be one of the breakthrough performances to watch for. The way he's been riding in real life tells me that something special could happen with Kana today. We mentioned Takano Ikeda. These are the names. Brian Duffy Jr., Spencer Segerbuk, Daniel Jamrozic. These are the names that have certainly, Jamrozic is back in a chase group a little further back. But this front group now, at this point, we're really bracing ourselves. Coming under 6K to go, and it looks like Van Diemen, Rasan, going to roll it again. Relentless
Back
today.
at it again. He's definitely relentless. If there's an award for not sitting in the pack, he's definitely going to get it. He already spent like 5K off the front. Now he's at 5.6K to go, and he's definitely making a reaction because Freddie Ovitt is like, no, not today. I saw you do it earlier. I'm not going to let you get away again. So if these two can get a little gap and work together, it could be something. However, we saw what happened on the last time. The field was able to close an 18-second gap just like that. So things are going to be tough for anyone to get away right now with less than 6K to go.
All right, it's going to be all out pandemonium at this point here. Taking a look at this group here, doing some inventory. It's going to be every man for himself here in just a moment, but these are the names. Neeson is strong today. Jones, Reckenauer, de Roos, Power, Anderson. Oh, Connor McGoldrick is today your day. It certainly could be, as there's going to be a major surge coming. I'm certainly expecting that. So this is Kenny Neeson that we're looking at, Finesse Esports, and they've got Shell Power. So Finesse, we haven't talked about them all that much. All of a sudden, at the right time, they're in the right place, Rasan.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all about timing. As we talk about that all the time when it comes down to these sprints, being in the right place, timing it, power ups, everything has to work out perfectly. And of course, you got to have a lot of power to sprint to the finish line. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, it's funny how this is where we really start to enter the no brain, no pain zone, because it's not a whole lot of thinking at this point that's going to win the bike race. Yeah, it's more about either you can do this or you can't, as we are ready for the epic throwdown of Season 3. Folks, right here, right now, it's all on the line. It is basically dead even back in that chase group. If you want to talk about, so Rasan, we're going to really have two different conversations now. We're going to be looking at how Canyon and BZR are doing against each other, because that's our season battle. 1 point, whichever team is better today will win, or the man who wins the race today. Catherine Curie wins the women's race for the 4th time. Freddie Ovitt is sitting on 3 wins right now. Can he equal Catherine Curie as the winningest rider in ZRL history? I wouldn't bet against him. There he is, a little bit of a split happening, and he's been patient today. He hasn't burnt extra matches, and I think that might be the difference. Rasan, what are your thoughts? Can Ovitt do it?
No, I think you're absolutely right. We watched Ovitt over the series stretch his legs plenty of times during the race and cause, these huge reactions. Today, he's been very conservative. It could be one or two things. He doesn't feel good, or he's being conservative. So time will tell there, but I think he can definitely do it. He has one of the faster finishes when it comes to like these really tough, heavy, long finishes. And but it's not going to be easy. I mean, there's some riders in there that could definitely hit out early and cause some havoc, cause confusion. We already saw the Movistar rider, Van Diemen, going off the front plenty of times over the last 15K. So I suspect that he may hit out early and cause some some disruption, I should say, before the sprint.
Perfect word, Rasan. Disruption is exactly what David Talbot would like to do out here. At some point, you have to shift from, if your team is sitting back in 7th, 8th place, it would certainly be nice to help the team move up. But in this situation, there's nothing more you could do outside of ride at your highest level if you're David Talbot. And it would be awfully nice for David to get a win here in this quality group. So you start looking around at the individuals and this is where Rasan's point earlier was really astute. The Canyon team, BZR, they are playing in a different level right now. And it's Pim van Diemen who has, Rasan, I'm going to just name it, the Rasan Bahati Courage Award. It goes to Pim van Diemen. He got it. This guy's unbelievable. There's Ovid.
He's unbelievable. He will not stop. And I think you ever been on the bike and you just get in one of those zones, it's going to hurt, but it feels good. And you just keep attacking and attacking. I think Van Diemen is definitely in that zone today where he's just like, I know I'm hurting everybody. I'm hurting myself, but I'm in a zone and he's definitely got it today.
Man, and the problem is the level is so high in the ZRL. If you want to put a stinger on these guys, you want to put these guys in the box, good luck, because they're like a cornered Wolverine. They will fight out every time, and it's nothing but teeth and claws. Here goes David Talbot. So David Talbot at 2.2K, he's going to make a bid for this one. Get ready, folks. It's fireworks from here on in as Takato Ikeda sitting second wheel here. The Japanese rider Pim van Diemen sitting back in that group. Freddie Ovett patiently waiting to light the fuse. And I tell you what, when Freddie Ovett lights that fuse, he will be the bomb here today in Surrey Hills.
Yeah, if he's anything like Justin and the rest of the guys, he's definitely going to win because they've won everything around here locally in Los Angeles. So it'd be kind of cool to see him win on the final stage, or I should say the final day of the series of this event. So I'm looking forward to seeing him sprint, see some big watts come out of those legs from Freddie Ovett.
Oh, BCR is going to like Mateus de Roos, who was on the podium in Richmond. So we know that this guy can climb. And Mateus de Roos now is trying to, I don't see right now. I'm looking for the Canyon jerseys here. Again, we're going to score this all the way down to 30 spots. And the riders in the second and the third group, Rasan, their points are going to be the difference, I have a feeling, today. So it's not all about the win. 50 points for the winner. That's significant as unbelievable. I don't know if they have the Energizer Bunny in Europe, but certainly if they're looking for a human to play the role, Pim van Diemen would be the man. This guy's been unbelievable today.
Yeah, he's definitely the man. He's just keep going. He's basically attacked every 2 or 3 kilometers since 16K to go.
At one point he attacked himself, I think. It was
yeah. He's like, I'm not going fast enough. Attack again.
Yeah, crack the whip again. It's unbelievable. So, hey, Shell Power, Kirkmeyer, Ovett. I mean, these are the guys that have been the strongest in the ZRL all season long. And no surprise, Rasan, to see them on center stage at 1.4K to go. It's going to be absolutely brutal.
Van Diemen is all in. He's not holding back. You can see the picture of him out of the saddle. Heart rate 181. That's my max heart rate, so I wouldn't be able to go anywhere from there. And just about 600 watts. So he's kicking it pretty good. Almost 7 seconds. Actually, he is at 7 seconds now.
This is serious.
So it's serious, but with a big sprint from the field, I think they can gobble them up really quickly.
95% of Americans would be calling 911 in the hospital if their heart rate hit 181 beats per minute. As I tell you what, he's at 1K to go. Unfortunately, they're not going to give much leash. I mean, Takato Ikeda sitting about 6 seconds back, Freddie Ovett a little further than that, so they're still within striking distance. You certainly want to reward this kind of an effort out here, but Takato Ikeda now, this man has hit out. Takato Ikeda, Freddie Ovett. We're looking at what is currently the chase. as a rider going downhill at this point. I don't know how we found them, as that's going to be Takeda and Ovid, Darus, and Tugel. So looking good for BZR. Looking really good, Rasan, for BZR right now. That's the blue jersey you see there.
Yep,
they got to love this.
Oh, yeah. This is perfect, but I still think a little bit too far forward. I think the winner may come from about 5 or 6 riders back, unless they can get a gap on this downhill, which is fairly unlikely. I think they're doing a little bit too much right now. So here's this ramp up to the finish, and it's going to be a good one.
The only guy super tucking is Freddie Ovid, and that will be the difference maker. I have a feeling, especially if Freddie has got an arrow in his quiver. Let's see. It's all on the line now. We move into the grand finale of Season 3. It is on, and it looks like Pimp Van Diemen just might do it. The Movistar rider into 200 meters to go. This was the knockout punch that they were looking for.
Wow.
The world team, Movistar, is now esports history being made as they take the win with Pim Van Diemen, Freddie Ovid for second, Anders Foldager third, Takato Ikeda looks like he came across the line for fourth, and I have to say, Rasan looks pretty good for BZR Sports Solid. We've got more riders to score, but those two in the front group did all that they could. Woo! That was
what
awesome.
What a finish. Yeah, we both saw it. We saw it coming. Van Diemen going off the front early, disrupting the fill, and I really think that they just were not concerned about him, and perhaps thought they could bring him back in a sprint finish. And Freddie Ovid, of course, putting out the big watts. So I've been in that position plenty of times when you're the runner-up, second place, and it sucks when you're when you put out a good sprint and you know you could have won the race, but it was that one guy who just wanted it a little more. So what a finish! And this is the chase group that's probably been, I don't know, off the back for some time now. And like you said, all the points matter. So they're going to keep going and try to collect all those points all the way down to 30 places, which is significant.
Yeah, well, and you see the two Canyon riders here. So it ended up being Tugels in 7th and Darus in 5th for BZR. Luckily for Canyon, those points drop off pretty significantly after you go past 3rd place. So that being said, BZR certainly getting the better out of that front group, but Canyon might be saving the season with these riders here, these points that are going to be coming across the line, as we are just looking at Jaden Yeager would be our 19th rider to finish if he can hold on, and it looks like he will for that spot. So scoring down to 30th here, and these riders, again, I'm not seeing a lot of BZR coming through at this point. It's going to be close. It's going to be incredibly close, as our statisticians will be at work right now. Rasan, wow, what a finale!
Yeah, what a finale! I mean, this is what it's all about: putting it all on the line on the last event, and that's what makes it exciting too. Knowing that you can just lay it all out there, you don't have to do this again next week and get a little break and perhaps come back again with another series. But yeah, super fun to watch and entertaining.
It looks like the 95-kilogram rider, Bruce Bird, is going to finish in the top 30 today. It looks like Thomas Thrall of Insured and draft rider Bruce Bird will round out that's going to be Thrall in the white jersey there across the line. And this is Bruce Bird. OJ Borge on World of Zwift was giving him a shout out. I completely agree. At 95 kilo to finish in the top 30 today, that is superb. Good job, Bruce Bird.
I loved watching him a couple weeks ago going off the front. I think we were in Richmond when he was making everyone work for it.
All right, Rasan, let's take a look at the points now, as Pim Van Diemen for 50, Freddie Ovid second for 40, Takato Ikeda, that's a big ride to take the bronze medal today, in third. Anders Foldager for Pioata Ceramic Speed ends up in fourth. Now here's where it gets interesting, folks. Matthias Darus of BZR Sports Solid will take 27 points. Stefan Kirkmeyer in 6th with 25, 24 for Leonard Tugel. So you can see two BZR riders in the top 10. Shell Power, David Talbot, and Howell Davies rounding out our top 10. As we look a little deeper, now we see Canyon with 3 in the top 20. So it is going to be down to possibly 1 or 2 points out here. Wow. Incredible. So Bjorn Andresen, 20, Mark Bruce for 19 points in 12th, Lionel Viasen in 13th, Kenny Nyssen in 14th, Johannes Reckenauer 15th, Ollie Jones. So Viasen, Jones, and Van Noppen picking up points for Canyon here with no more BZR points, I don't think. So, no, Daniel Turek, Jaden Yeager. I missed Connor McGoldrick there in 17th. And then we've got Antoine Van Noppen. So you can see we're doing a lot of analysis right now, trying to figure out where did those points go. We'll go a little bit deeper here to look at our top 30 riders. And it looks like Canyon picks up a few more. 7 with Segabruch there. So Vidar Mel in 21st, Jed Scott 22nd, Jonny de Broek in 23rd, Spencer Segabruch, as I said, 24th, Christian Ofdal in 25th, Jan Emmerich in 26th, Daniel Jim Rosick 27th, Brian Duffy Jr. for 28th, and Thomas Thrall 29th, and Bruce Bird, as we mentioned, rounding out our top 30. Okay, well, I have a feeling they're going to need a little time to keep double checking. That's today's winner, Pim van Diemen, there in his, doesn't look like a pain cave, a pain lounge that he is in. Looks very nice. But he's got to be happy with his effort.
Oh, yeah. He was phenomenal today. I mean, literally animated the race for the last 20 minutes and to go on to win. So that, yeah, superhuman effort, I would say, to really ride away from a field that was so stacked like that in the last 3K is pretty amazing.
Yeah, you were talking about Zwift Academy earlier and how fun those have been. Well, Movistar E-Team wasn't exactly a Zwift Academy, but it was somewhat similar as riders from around the Zwift community contested for spots on this team. It was hundreds of riders. It was really an interesting competition. At the end of the day, Pim van Diemen ends up getting the spot and certainly validating, more than validating that with his ride out here today for the Dutchman.
Nice.
That's a strong group to ride away from, especially such a motivated group.
He can't believe it. He can't believe. He's like, oh my God, I did it.
Yeah, it's got to be incredibly satisfying, especially with this being the last race of season 3 here. So taking a look, and how about that? So adding up all those bonuses, Canyon Esports gets it done. Congratulations, guys. So Canyon Esports, it's consistency at the end of the day as they will pick up 99 points. As Movistar with second points there, including your winner of the day, Kirkmeyer E-Racing Team with 80 points for third, PO Auto Ceramic Speed in fourth, BZR Sports Solid, showing you that just putting 2 riders in the top 10 wasn't quite enough today. So they will be back, no doubt about it, for the all-Belgian team, ending up in 5th on, this is not the season, this is today's points. Zwift Warriors Cycling at 6th, Legion in 7th, Finesse Esports in 8th, Next Esport 9th, and BRT Mountain Fuel, rounding out our top 10 teams for today's points. We can go a little bit deeper and take a look at Saris in 11th, Insured in 12th, Restart for 13th, Draft for 14th, Beast Mode in 15th, Callus Esport in 16th, World Elite Zwifters presented by Oral 7 in 17th, Team Swedish Zwifters in 18th, and No Pins R3R and Dutch Racing rounding out our top 20 teams. So that's how we scored it for the day. But I certainly no math expert, but the series points should tell us the full story here. And Canyon Esports with their second win in a row here. Season 3's champions, 124 points. Congratulations, guys. You can see what it took. They never were further back than 4th place in any race this year, as BZR Sports Solid were so close. And you can see how they really picked it up in the second half of the season here. And they'll end up in 2nd. Movistar ends up in 3rd, PO Auto Ceramic Speed for 4th, Next in 5th, Saris, the Pros Closet 6th, Kirkmeyer E-Racing Team in 7th. And look, it was a tie on points for Next and Saris. So we went back to their most recent result, and it was Next getting the better of Saris today and moving them up into 5th on the season. Sarah 6th, Kirkmeyer 7th, Finesse Esports in 8th, Callis Esport Racing Team 9th, BRT Mountain Fuel 10th on our season table here after 8 races in season 3. What a season it was. We'll look at 11th place for Insured, presented by Pedal Power, 12th for Legion of LA, Restart Racing at 13th, Zwift Warriors Cycling, but they got a rider up on the podium today with Takado Ikeda in 14th, Beast Mode presented by Rose for 15th, World Elite Zwifters in 16th, Team Swedish in 17th, Draft for 18th, No Pins R3R, E-Racing Team in 19th, and then Dutch Racing rounding out our top 20. One more team to look at here on page 3. And we had 21 teams, and Vetus ended up our final team on the table here. So let's take a look at a replay of that fantastic finale out here today and see how Pim van Diemen worked his magic out there. There he is, Rasan, right on the front of the group in the blue Movistar jersey, but he wasn't there for long.
Yeah, he wasn't there for long. He was what do you call it? He was contagious to the field and had to move his way away from them all the time and be off the front.
Socially distanced.
Yeah, he was definitely socially. He was more like a country distanced because he put in a huge gap plenty of times throughout the entire race. So yeah, huge shout out to him. He did a great job and well-deserved win.
And that was his 4th or 5th attack of the day as well. Certainly would have thought that he would have run his battery and drained it after the first couple, but no, the Dutchman was phenomenal out here today. And we got to witness that incredible battle there for the season overall. What a way to wrap things up there, as it ended up being Canyon, and that's been the secret sauce for them, is their consistency and, to be honest, their knowledge. They have a fantastic director, and they clearly knew exactly what they were doing out there. So let me welcome back Hannah Walker. Hannah, I saw you watching the men's race as well. What a fantastic way to race throughout the whole season, but let's hear your thoughts on season 3.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that because it was so exciting come that finale, and for Pim van Diemen to hang on after so many attacks he made throughout the race, and his gap was 2-3 seconds with a K&a-half to go, and then to actually increase that gap to around 5-6 seconds by the finish line. I mean, they were charging behind, but actually he timed it to perfection. I mean, it was just simply incredible, and what a way to round up this final night of the ZRL. It's a brilliant finale.
Us talking about the secret sauce, and there's no doubt that the way that the women race and the men race here and the equal respect given to both races has been massive as far as the success of the ZRL. One more question for you, Hannah. As far as that goes, it seems like maybe that's where we really caught the tiger by the tail, is giving all of these athletes a chance to race at home in a worldwide stage, but they can do it still as a mom or someone who has a profession where you can't travel around the world to go race. I think we really figured out over these 3 seasons that there's a home for world-class athletes in the ZRL.
There certainly is, Dave. I couldn't have put it better myself. These riders, they're juggling and still performing at the highest level in esports, in cycling, still doing their career. Their moms, it's incredible what these riders can do. And we already mentioned it before about one of the riders from TFC. It's sensational, and it's the riders are on different time zones. We've mentioned that, Rasan's mentioned that, and it's a way for everyone to be involved. And this is the pinnacle of esports. It's Zwift. It's fantastic. And what a way to round this out.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Rasan, over to you now. I'm so happy that we were able to get you up to speed with us here this year. Thanks for bringing all of your knowledge. It was a lot of fun to have you on board. What did you learn watching the ZRL here the last few weeks? What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I piggyback on what Hannah said too. My takeaway is that it's not just racing. It's a community. I think everyone out there wants to be successful and win, but at the end of the day, it's about doing something that's good for everyone, good for our environment, good for our health, good for the community. And I think we will see this thing really, really grow bigger than what it is now. And just looking forward to the future. I'm excited to be at Zwift and see how it has grown over the last 4 years since I've been there. And yeah, if I can join you again, you, Hannah, and Matt, in the next series, I would love to continue to learn about Zwift racing, and maybe one day I'll try my hand in it. But I purely and surely enjoy all of it.
Well, Rasan, there's no way we're letting you go. So you're part of our team now, that's for sure. It has been absolutely incredible. And our team really expands well beyond Hannah, Rasan, and of course, Matt Stevens. Matt is the best. We absolutely love him here at Zwift. And Matt's been off doing the Giro for the last few weeks, but he's always been with us, cheering us on, and he'll be back before you know it. And that extends also to our production team. Johnny and Naomi and Bet and everyone who works so hard to help bring the racing to you out there. I hope they know how much we appreciate. There are a lot of challenges. I was mentioning for our racers, the double verification and all of that. For us to bring these broadcasts to you has been a pure joy. We want to tell the stories of these athletes and help you realize that it's not just an exercise contest with avatars. These are real human beings that are putting their heart and soul into these efforts. So we applaud them, and certainly we thank you. Now, we're not going anywhere. Our man, OJ Borge, is already cooking up a new world of Zwift. Hannah and I are going to have a chance to jump in and talk about the season and share our love for everything that has happened over this season 3. But make sure to tune in. You can find it on YouTube or go to Zwift.com. You'll see the world of Zwift and enjoy really just touching in. There's coaching advice. There's all kinds of ways to meet the athletes. So with an amazing season to look back on, I know that we're always looking forward. And I hope to see you out on Watopia or any of the worlds, the 9 worlds that we have in the world of Zwift. But now is the perfect time for my colleague, Matt Stevens, Rasan Bahati, and Hannah Walker to say thank you. Ride on. We'll see you soon.